Yo, what's going up, everybody? Welcome to I think this is the second time we're doing this, but it is the state of the JNJSOM address, where we're going to be covering everything that's happened so far in the conclusion of 2022 and going into the new season of 2023. I'm Commissioner Kevin S. Nasta. I am joined by the American League president and the current reigning and defending manager of the world champion almost said Broad Street Bats. Whoops.
Whoa.
Of Middletown Bearded Bandits. We had a little LeJon James on the mind right now. So, yeah, man, welcome to 2023, Nick.
It's funny because it seemed like the off season lasted like 5 seconds. The off season went by really, really quick. We played so many playoff series back to back to back. We did the whole playoffs in like 3 weeks, and then 2 weeks later it was the draft. So the off season, it seemed like it time period wise, it was a while. It was almost 2 months of the off season, but it went by really quickly. So I'm glad that we're now, we're 3 days away from opening day and JNJSOM opening day. But it feels good. It feels good to be back in the swing of things. And we got a whole new batch of players in the league this year. We have 2 rookie managers, 1 returning, 1 rookie. And we're going to have a great season, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to your point about how everything kind of got thrown together really quick at the end of last season. I mean, you mix in a little holiday time. You had a little Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. We have some general managers that are in the retail management field.
Yeah.
It felt like overall hell for them to be squeezing in, not only the playoff push going forward towards the end of the season, but just the general getting themselves ready if they already knew they were in the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, because there was a couple of teams that it came down to the last couple of games before they knew their destiny. And then they had to like restructure their whole roster and their output and their thought process to get ready for the playoffs.
My division came down to the final game of the season. Like I played.
Yeah, well, your last game affected 5 teams. Which is nuts.
It was my division, which was I win the division. I lose to Annie. Robbie wins the division. So Annie didn't know who she was playing. Phil, who finished 4th, he didn't know if he was playing Robbie or I. Then if I win the best record in the league. If I lose, you win the best record of the league and get home field, which realistically played a huge part in our World Series matchup too, especially Game 3. Game 4.
I'm sure the 20-sided dice had nothing to do with it. But,
well, the thing is, if I'm away and you're home in that series and that specific game that I won in 13 innings, who knows how that turns out?
True, always true. I mean, you never know. I'm the most experienced in the league by far. Probably if you add everybody's experience together, probably have more, and that's not taken away from like Anne Marie and Jessica, who've been playing since the early 2000s. But still with all that experience, it doesn't matter when it comes.
It doesn't matter with the 20-sided dice. If the 20-sided dice have already decided that they're not going to cooperate, you ain't winning.
When I put like in my reports, the result of the D20, and people are like, oh, D20, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, dice 20, 20-sided dice. I said, no, D20 means devil.
It's true, because the 20-sided dice weren't nice to you, and I don't know if I could have rolled any hotter in that entire series, really, especially that 5th game. When the dice are with you, they're with you, and when they're against you, they're against you. There's no when you're rolling cold. As much as I want to switch dice here and there and have my dice changes, when they're cold, they're cold. It doesn't matter what dice you're using.
Absolutely. And let's not forget that if I had my current team, my 2023 team, playing in that World Series, the amount of times I rolled the two column, I probably would have scored 30 runs a game. But that was this year. Last year, I had an entire team full of one columns, but it didn't stop me from rolling the two column.
Listen, I have a lot of two columns this season, so if you want to pass some of that two column luck over here, I'd be more than happy.
It's not. Now this year, I'll roll nothing but one column.
and I'll roll just like I always do, 1 and 3 columns. So I mean, it is what it is.
It's just gonna be another Nick 4 runs on 1 hit every inning.
Oh, easily. Because I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot of hit by pitches in the middle of the columns and a lot of walks in the middle of the column. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
Everybody see I'm wearing my my throwback racist shirt, my Washington Redskins, in honor of that douche finally selling the team. Maybe I could actually watch my team and not, hang my head and stuff it in the grass. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But all right, let's move on from 2022. Season's over. Congrats again.
Thank you.
You won second championship in the JNJSOM era since 2015. Your ring awaits you for opening day on Saturday, along with your team that you're going to have to cut out.
Which is fine. I'm bringing my standards, and then I'll cut them when I get there Friday night. I'll cut the copies when I get there Friday night.
I'm not doing it. So. I don't know. I've had enough arts and crafts day.
Touche.
But January 21st was the date of the 2023 entry draft.
It was.
Christening the new season, a brand new season that saw 2 of our GMs leave the league in Seattle Blazers, Joe Rotilio, and the Beantown Ballers, Phil LaRoche. But we welcomed in 2, I guess you can say new. We got 1 brand new and 1 returning general manager. Bill Broadhurst, now running the team called the Leonardo Lightning. And then we also welcome back the New Jersey Killers manager. Like I said, we welcome back Kenny Kluska. So formerly of the American Dreams baseball organization. So we're happy. We're 10 strong. Every year we get to probably to 3/4 of the way through the season, and we're fully expecting expansion drafts and 12 teams and 3 divisions, and something always happens, and we wound up with 10. But you know what? I'm happy that we have the 10. Can't complain over that. It is not easy doing this. It's not easy putting this together.
Yeah.
Everybody's at an age where they're married, they have family, they have kids, they're taking vacations, they got work responsibilities, their kids got, school clubs and sports and stuff like that. So it is not easy. We also got a couple of managers that that are Peter Pan that still think they're kids, and we it's not easy doing this, and I'm happy to say, we've been able to, with a couple of speed bumps here and there, keep it going. And who knows? Maybe in 2024 we finally get that 12.
I hope so, because we've had back-to-back years where we thought we were going to expand, and we've had to pivot last second. We've made it work, and that's the important thing. But to schedule for 10 teams, 6 to 9 games once a month, it can get difficult, especially when we have 3 or 4 people who work retail. And when, like you said, when we get around September where they have to work around Labor Day and Thanksgiving with Black Friday and then Christmas time, it can get difficult. But we plan smart early in the season. So late in the season, if we have to maneuver a little differently, we can with the schedule. So we make it work, and we have a great group of people who make it as easy as possible most of the time to get the schedule working. And I'm excited for the start of 2023, man. I mean, we had a very, very solid draft. We had 9 of the 10 teams there. The other Kenny, unfortunately, was not able to be there with us. of the New Jersey Killers. But luckily, he was able to do his draft over the phone while he was on the phone with you. So he got everybody that he wanted every round. And we had a great draft. The first round was jam-packed of pure talent. Saw some moves that we didn't think we were going to see. Smart moves that we didn't think we were going to see. Obviously, it was a mix of pitching and hitting in the first round. Top half of the draft was a little more hitting than we thought we were going to see, and then the bottom half was pitching, which was very much expected in Strat in general, but coming into this season specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. And what people sorry, just muted myself. What people don't understand is we're an all year
Yeah.
We go all year round.
There's no time off.
Don't. I mean, our season ends somewhere in December. Sometimes it lingers into January, but most likely in December. January, we have our draft. February, we're going to Glen Head, New York to pick up the set, sorting the cards, distributing the cards, copying them, mailing them out to whomever. And then March is opening day, and we play for 10 months. So,
I mean, we had our draft. The last time all of us were together were for the draft on the 21st. So it'll be about 2 months, almost exactly 2 months since we've all been together. But you and I were in Strat mode beginning of February, going to the second week of February, going to pick up the cards. So we only had about a 3-week layoff. And then boom, the 25th, 25th is opening day for us, and we're right back into the swing of things. So we basically played for 11 months straight. But December into January was where it was very, very tight because I played my division series on a Wednesday. You and I played our opponents in the division series on a Wednesday. The following weekend, we were playing league championship series. And the week after that, we were playing the World Series. 2 weeks after that was the draft. So there was no time off.
Yeah, it's good like that because then you never lose interest. There's never that gap where people are like, I don't really miss it, or
And even during the regular season, the most we see is usually at most, if we're playing at the beginning of 1 month and towards the end of the next month, maybe 6 weeks. That's like the most. And then usually in between there's trades going on. There's Strat talk in the group chats and Slack and all that. So that's usually the longest downtime is about 6 weeks. But usually we try and schedule a little more attentively so we don't have those large gaps if possible.
Yeah. And when Nick says Strat talk, a lot of that is trash talk.
Yes.
You have we have an array of fans, where when you play Strat, you become a fan of baseball. It's not just, hey, Nick's a Met fan, No, Nick, Nick's got his loyalty to the New York Mets. But when the New York Mets are playing the Toronto Blue Jays and Whit Merrifield comes to the plate, he is going, let's go, Whit. I'm sorry, Verlander. I'm sorry. We can win the game, but let Whit go 4 for 4, baby.
My boy. He's going to start the season in the minors, though. He's not going to see too much time in the majors, barring some injuries. We'll go into that later, but he's got some good defense at second base. His outfield arm got worse this year, but we'll probably see him a little bit. His card isn't horrible per se. We'll see him a little bit in the majors this year, probably.
And we'll round out the rest of your division. Anne Marie is a Mets fan. Rob is a Yankees fan. Bill is a Yankees fan. And Richie is a Mets fan. So we move over to my division. I am a Mets fan. Jonathan is a Mets fan. Kenny is a Miami Marlins fan. Jessica is a Toronto Yankees fan. And who else we got? We're missing. So Sean is a San Diego Padres
fan. And for those watching, the reason we say a Toronto Yankees fan is because she's a Yankees fan, but as you'll see later on, she has probably every player on the Toronto Blue Jays on her Scooterville Saints roster. And it got even we'll go into it in a little bit, but it got even heavier because she drafted a Toronto Blue Jay in round 2.
And she also made a trade with me and got a Toronto Blue Jay in exchange.
I totally forgot that she made that trade brought her in another Blue Jay.
I think she looked at it and she was like, Nicky Lopez, Santiago Espinal. What team does he play on? Royals, Blue Jay. Oh, I'll take Espinal.
Well, I mean, realistically, that's actually not like thinking intelligently as well. Like in the baseball realm, are you going to see more Blue Jays? Or are you going to see more Royals on your team? And the Blue Jays have a better team. You might see more production offensively with certain players around them, driving in more runs, single 2 stars on your card. So realistically, it's actually not even yeah, she has a lot of Blue Jays, but it was an intelligent decision to go, in my mind, to go Espinal over Nicky Lopez.
So one thing I always learned, I was taught back in the mid '80s when I kind of got into strat. I started playing in the late '80s. I was told, don't be a homer and always concentrate on the teams that suck when you're drafting. And then the reason for that is because there's so many players that play for those really bad teams that had great seasons that fly under the radar.
Yeah.
That people do not think of when they're thinking about who am I going to grab in the first 5 to 7 rounds. So back in my days of playing, it was always the Baltimore Orioles, the Minnesota Twins, the Detroit Tigers, the Phillies, and the Padres.
Yeah.
Most the Twins. I mean, the Twins back in those days when they had guys like Torrey Hunter, Jock Jones, Corey Koski, Pat Mears, Doug Mankiewicz. I mean, they had some, their pitching stunk. Outside of Scott Erickson, their pitching was atrocious.
Yeah.
But did have Rick Aguilera as a closer. So, I mean, they had some solid plays. They had about 7 or 8 players that were worth drafting on that team that people like really didn't get. Even like the early day after their World Series championship, back then Florida Marlins. They had a lot of speed. Guys about a 270 with speed.
Yeah.
Good defense. Had a lot of power. A lot like the 80s Cardinals. They were like that. Like outside of their catcher and their first baseman. Sorry. Outside of their catcher and their first baseman, everybody on the Cardinals batted 270 with moderate power but stole 30 bases. Everybody on that team was an A, double A, and then Vince Coleman was a triple A.
Yeah.
I'm choking a bit. Die.
But you're talking about teams that are really bad. I mean, you mentioned Whit Merrifield before. Yeah, he's on the Blue Jays now, but for his entire career, he was on the Royals, and he's been one of the staples of my franchise since we redrafted and came back in 2019. And he's been one of the most productive members of my team as well. So, I mean, you go right into
how many Royals were in the league? There's a perfect example. You said the Royals are not good.
What did we have last year? We had 3.
Well, you got Salvador Perez. You had Renzo Cain. You had Nicky Lopez. You had Whit Merrifield. Before the trade.
Cain before the trade too, because Cain was on Milwaukee, but still.
I feel like we're missing an outfielder too, but that's like, and I'm sure we're missing some pitching too.
Yeah.
You have,
no, I don't think we're missing anybody, to be honest. I think it was. I mean, Cain was on Milwaukee, so we're really talking to his 3 players when Merrifield was on the Royals last year. That's it.
Oh wait. Zach Greinke was in the league last year.
But he wasn't on the Royals, though. That's where he started his career.
He's on the Royals. He's on the Royals now?
Is he? Again, I mean, me questioning that just proves your point. Players that get overlooked because they're on a certain team. Obviously, Greinke's not in the league this year, but yeah, we had a wide variety of teams that were taken. There was a lot of, actually, just looking at the draft right now, crazy enough, which I did not realize, we had 3 Atlanta Braves go in the first round, 2 Arizona Diamondbacks go in the first round, and then a little bit of mix of a couple other teams, which I did not realize that we had 3 Braves and 2 Diamondbacks, and Diamondbacks went back to back.
We expected the 3 Atlanta Braves to go in the first round. Maybe not so much the Arizona Diamondbacks. Maybe not the first round.
You know what? One of them I definitely expected.
I expected Zach Gallen to go in the first round. I expected Merrill Kelly to get taken in the second round, but because of the activity that went on in the beginning of the draft, Merrill Kelly was forced into the first round.
Yeah, and he was one of my top. Merrill Kelly was one of my top rated starters as well. But as you did, I had him on my list to take possibly in round 2. And then because I already had my eyes set on Jesus Luzardo in the first round, which is who ended up falling to me and who I drafted in the 10 spot in the first round. But I didn't expect you to have to go after Merrill Kelly. I actually expected guys like possibly Ross Stripling to fall to you, Kyle Wright to fall to you, who both went before you even picked.
This was the first year that I honestly have to say that when the pick came to me, I was at a loss of words.
Yeah, you were.
Like I remember Tracy, who was nice enough to admin our draft. She turned to you and she goes, "Who goes?" And you were like, "Kevin." She's like, "He didn't pick yet?" And he's like, "No, he's fucking pissed off right now."
Yeah. No, it's true because you were going to take Gallen, and then Robbie took Gallen just before you. Andy had already taken Stripling. Broadstreet, who is John, already took Kyle Wright at that point. We know you're going to go starter because if you go starter there, you hardly have to go starter after that if you don't want to. So at that point, Strider was already gone. Verlander was gone. Wright was gone. Stripling was gone. And Gallen was gone. Those are 5 of the top maybe 7 pitchers that were available. So it really puts you in a bind. It's like, do you want to go starter and take one of that, not second tier, but bottom half of the first tier of starters? Or do you want to pivot completely and change up your whole draft and possibly go back, which you ended up going pitcher anyway, but like it made you think for a couple minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had needs, like all teams did. So we'll get into the draft, and we'll go. We're gonna go to first 3 rounds, and then grade each team by the first 3 rounds, filling their needs. Not gonna do the entire draft. But we're gonna go with which I kind of know what each team needed at the time of the draft, and then I'll let you after I read the name, I'll let you kind of comment whether you feel that need was filled.
Yeah.
The number one pick went to the New Jersey Killers, Ken Kluska. He took rookie center fielder from the Seattle Mariners, Julio Rodriguez. Now, Kenny's team was in need of outfield help, severe outfield help. He had a good nucleus. He had some solid pitching. But one of his weak points is that he needed he even had catching, so he needed outfield help, but not just outfield. He needed outfield that can contribute offensively. The team the year before was based on a lot of outfield speed and defense, just not a lot of offensive output. So he had to kind of change the outlook and the makeup of this team. So he gets off to the number 1 pick and he picks Julio Rodriguez. Do you feel he filled the immediate need?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. J-Rod was the concise number 1 pick overall. Could he have gone starter and then focused on outfield rounds 2, 3, and so on? Because as you see, we'll get into it. He picked outfield in rounds 2 and 3 as well. Could he have gone pitcher in round 1? Absolutely. But you're going youth right off the bat with a great center fielder who's arguably could go 30-30, possibly going forward. So absolutely Julio Rodriguez, number 1 overall pick. Great pick by Kenny. He aimed in. He got that defensive center fielder who also hit on both sides, which is different than another center fielder that went a couple picks later. So I love the Julio Rodriguez pick. The defense locks up. He has the speed now, and then he also has the bat on both sides of the ball.
Okay. So we get into the second pick. That was Jessica with the Scooterville Saints. Scooterville, who's probably had one of the top 3 drafts in the past 2 seasons. And she might actually have the best draft in this draft class of this year.
Mhm.
Arguably, if not one, she's like 1B.
Yeah.
But she needed to address some things. She needed to address back end of the rotation. She needed to address bullpen, and she needed to get younger in certain positions and start building that minor league system with youth for the future, which she did with the entire Toronto Blue Jays organization. No, so, which is funny because you look at Toronto and the Toronto Blue Jays can't win. Like they can't win the division. They can't keep up with the Yankees. But when it comes to Strat, none of that shit matters. It's a matter of individual effort.
Yep.
Stratomatic rewards individual effort. They don't give a shit. It's not a team game in Strat. So she took arguably the number one pitcher in the draft and then threw us all for a loop.
Yeah.
She announced that this draft pick's not even going to be in her rotation. He is going to be a multiple used relief pitcher each series, which our rules state that you can't use a relief pitcher more than 2 consecutive outings. But when this guy goes 3+ innings, to have him 2 out of 3 games every series, especially going into the playoffs in a best of 5, he can pitch every goddamn game.
Every game. 5-game series, first round of the playoffs, he can go. And we'll get into this. But
best of 7, he only has to miss 1 game.
Yeah, so, 1. If it goes 7.
Right. So I mean, this is a weapon and a half. I had something similar to this with Seth Lugo years ago, which was great. But Seth Lugo could not hold a candle to this card. Yeah. Atlanta Braves starting pitcher Spencer Strider, as I like to call him during the year, Spencer Striker, because this guy's got edge strikeouts on his card.
He does, and it was a great pick by Jess and the Scooterville Saints. She could have gone Strider, she could have gone Verlander there. She knew she was going to go pitching regardless in with the second pick. She might have snagged Julio Rodriguez possibly if he had fallen to the 2 spot. But with both starting pitchers there available, I like the Strider pick, like you mentioned, because she's now putting him in the bullpen. And he had she knew that he was going to have starter reliever, whether it was relief 2, relief 3, whatever it was. She knew he was going to have reliever on the card. So if she had a great draft, which she did, and she addressed starting pitcher needs elsewhere, she could move him for the bullpen. And now she has 2 lefties in a rotation, and she can just piggyback them off the lefties and screw up somebody's complete entire roster lineup 1 through 9, depending on how they're constructed and whether they hit lefties and righties. So she can piggyback whoever she wants. I might be rolling Nestor Cortez's card great against her as a lefty. You know what? 2 innings in, she's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm putting in Strider. Well, Strider goes 3. She can stretch him to 5 if she wants to. Right. Then all of a sudden, stuff. Say that again.
Put you in a situation because then you're going to start flip-flopping your bench. Now, like you said, he could go 3 innings. So now if you get 3 out of Cortez and you get 3 out of Strider, say you get 4 out of Strider, you're going into the 8th inning now. You took all your lefty batters out of the game to face Strider. Oh boy, here she comes with Steven Okert now in the 8th inning. You're screwed.
Back to a lefty bat, exactly. So whoever she's facing is going to have to manage really, really well when she has those lefties in the rotation, and she's going to piggyback them with Strider more than likely in most cases. So it's going to really take really, really strong management skills from whoever she's playing to be able to counterpunch those moves by her. And I thought that Spencer Strider pick was phenomenal. She wouldn't have been wrong if she chose Verlander, but gives her way more flexibility because you know what? In the playoffs, maybe she says, you know what? Screw it. Strider, you're in the rotation now. Javier, you're in the bullpen because Christian Javier, one of her long-term staples on that franchise. Well, guess what? He's a starter 6, relief 3 as well. So she can move him to the bullpen, Strider to the rotation, and do the same exact thing with Javier that she just did with Strider during the regular season.
And let me tell you, to be honest with you, if she took Justin Verlander in that spot, I probably would have not been happy with that spot. Just because, yes, Justin Verlander did win the American League Cy Young award, but Justin Verlander also had career lows in pretty much every single category. It just showed that Justin Verlander had really not much competition going into that Cy Young
Yeah.
candidacy.
And his card is great. Verlander's card is great. It's not the best, like you mentioned. You mentioned on draft day when we picked up the cards from Glen Head, New York. It's not the best Verlander card we've ever seen. It's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. It's a great card, and we'll get into who drafted him a little bit later. But Strider was the right pick. It also sets her up for the future because you know what? Maybe in 2023 he doesn't have the greatest season. She's going to keep him regardless. And whether he's in the minors, back end of his rotation, top of her rotation, doesn't matter. He's going to be part of her franchise for a while. Whereas Verlander, what does Verlander have left in the tank? As a Mets fan, I hope he has a lot left in the tank. But he's not going to have as much as Strider possibly does. So I thought the Strider pick was phenomenal. I thought Jess did a great job. I was talking to her leading up to the draft, and she was really back and forth on who she wanted to take. And again, based off of who Kenny took too, because if Kenny took a starter, she might have taken Julio Rodriguez at number 2. So she was really thinking about all her options, and I thought she did a great job with that Strider pick.
Yeah, I mean, if Kenny would have took a starter, I really would have been a mess going into.
Well, Kenny takes a starter there at number 1 overall, and his rotation's even better than it already is. And he's got Sandy Alcantara, Tony Gonsolin, and Aaron Nola as his 1, 2, 3, which are a phenomenal 1, 2, 3. If he takes a starter there and he takes Strider or Verlander on top of those 3 other starters, it's absolutely insane. And we'll get into the person that took Verlander because we're going to see that a little bit later.
And that's a rotation that's going to be very scary.
Yes.
But when it comes to strat, you got to score runs. Doesn't matter how good your
do.
Rotation is. One roll of the dice, it could be 3-0, even though your card is great. So the third pick of the draft went to the Chandler Diamondbacks, another team that needed to address some outfield help. They needed to address some depth in the catching core, needed some starting pitching, needed some bullpen, needed a little of everything. He hung around to almost the very end last year, missed the playoffs by 1 game, 1 victory. But, he's a veteran manager. He knows the deal and knows how this works. He knew coming in as an expansion team that he's going to take some bumps and bruises. But he went with Atlanta center fielder Michael Harris. And, that gives him a nice centerpiece right up the middle, which you need because you need that core from shortstop, second base, catcher, and center field. And then you can build around that.
Yeah, absolutely. He will have to more than likely. I don't remember looking at Harris's card too much. So I'm not sure. He's more than likely gonna have to platoon him on the left side because he hits righties very, very well. But lefties he doesn't hit as well. Really, if I remember correctly, not well at all. So we might have to platoon him. But again, can bring him in late in the game for defense if need be. I believe off the top of my head, he's like a 1-1 in center, maybe a 1-2, something like that. So he's going to be good defensively to bring in late in the game in center field. I like the Harris pick because it shores him up in center field, especially against righties when most of the league is built of righties. However, for his team, I might have gone Verlander there instead, because that would have really, really shored up his rotation with the likes of let me bring up his rotation right here. It would have shored up his rotation with the likes of Luis Castillo and Shane Bieber, along with Robbie Ray and a couple other guys who he ends up drafting. I think the Verlander pick might have been a little bit stronger. I still like that he at least went youth there and got a young center field, a position that is always needed more than most others in strat. He focused on that position. He made the best available pick at that position. So he was very, very smart. And then he shored up another really important position in the second round, which we'll get to later. So I did like the pick. If I had to grade it, I would give it maybe a B instead of an A, just because I feel like starting pitching was a little bit more important for him. But like you said before, got to score runs. And with Michael Harris's card, I think he's going to be able to score runs.
And if you remember what I said prior to the draft, that knowing the splits of these players,
Yes.
I said Michael Harris is a sucker pick. And you said, what do you mean? I'm like, he's the easy pick. Easy pick. People see those final numbers, highlight after highlight. The Atlanta Braves as good as they were, and it's a sucker pick. You're like, there's no doubt he's going to get drafted. But then if you break it down, Chandler drafted with their number one pick, a platoon center fielder.
Yeah.
So can he make it work? Of course he can.
Of course.
But other teams might not have went that way if they would have dug deeper into the numbers instead of just scraping the surface. But people learn as they play, as they progress. The more they draft, the more they learn. And let's say this was four seasons from now with the same squad we have now, Michael Harris might not have gotten drafted into the fourth round.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a need that he had. It's not like he drafted a center fielder who only hit lefties and didn't hit righties at all. So could the pick have been better? Possibly. But was it the worst pick we've ever seen? Absolutely not.
Oh, no, of course.
So I like I said, I give it a B. We have a lot of righties in our league. We actually had more. We're gonna have more lefty starters than we anticipated on the opening day rosters for everybody. So it actually works out it works out pretty well for him that we're gonna see a good amount. What do we have? We have 10 teams, 5 starters, 50. So we're gonna have 37 right-handed starters because we have 13 left-handed starters on rosters to start the season. So he's got plenty of opportunities for Michael Harris to get at bats.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, every Major League Baseball in general is right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb in Stratomatic was always you don't pitch a lefty unless they're a power lefty, or you have a superb defense.
Yeah.
Because if they don't strike guys out, there's going to be a lot of extras, and you want to make sure you have the defense. My early days, I had Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
So now I have Carlos Rodon.
Yeah. And I have 2 lefties, which you'll see coming up. I had 1 holdover lefty from last year and 1 lefty that I mentioned before that we'll get to later that I drafted. So I'm rocking 2 lefties, but I also have I don't have my old school bearded bandits defense infield behind him, but I still have a serviceable defense behind him, especially at shortstop got much better for me this year, unfortunately, with the loss of Tatis but Bogarts had his best defensive year of his career, which worked out very, very well for me. So I'll be okay defensively with pitchers that are right in the middle of that power and ground ball rate. But that'll be fine. But again, like you said, if you have the lefties, you need to go more power lefties, which we definitely have in this league. So,
hey, 4th pick went to new manager Leonardo Lightning's Bill Broadhurst. This is a team that probably didn't need to go starting pitching in the first round, but if you're gonna get a starting pitcher in the first round to literally lock up your rotation as on paper is the best rotation in the league.
Hands down.
Justin Verlander, Houston Astros, was absolutely sick. I mean, you got the rotation in front of you. Who else is he's got on that rotation?
So his rotation for the Leonardo Lightning, in this order, Verlander's his ace, Corbin Burns is his 2, Clayton Kershaw is the 3, Max Scherzer is the 4, and Logan Webb is the 5. And last year, 4 of those 2 through 5 there, Burns, Kershaw, Scherzer, Webb, are all holdovers from last year. So he didn't even. I don't think he was even planning on taking a starter in round 1. But when Justin Verlander falls to you at the 4th pick, it's not even a contemplation. Cy Young winner in the AL. You're not even thinking about not taking him at that spot.
I was a little surprised that he made him the number 1 starter. Maybe out of respect for being the number 1 pick for the team, he made him number 1. But hey, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's gonna be tough. Anybody, I mean, that rotation was tough already last year, but this is gonna be.
Because I faced this franchise, which was the former Beantown Ballers. I faced them in the first round of the playoffs. And out of the 3 teams that I faced in the playoffs, he held me. The Beantown Ballers held me to the least runs that I scored in the entire in any series in the playoffs. That team is that pitching staff is tough. The starting rotation, and just got even better. A+ from Bill. There was no when you see Justin Verlander at the 4 spot, you're taking him hands down. So it was a phenomenal pick by him. There was no thought process whatsoever. I will say, I was actually I wish that Verlander went before, so we could actually see what Bill was actually really planning on doing in that spot. I would have loved to see who he was planning on taking at the 4. Maybe it was Michael Harris, possibly. If Verlander, Strider, and Julio went 1, 2, 3, maybe it would have been Michael Harris. Maybe it would have been who knows who it would have been. But he got a great starter. We'll see how many more years he's got of Verlander. He's got some age in his rotation with guys like Kershaw and Scherzer and Verlander. He's got 3 pitchers who are towards the end of their careers. Not at the end, but getting there. So we'll see what he does going forward in future drafts. But he's got hands down, and he's in my division, hands down the best rotation in my division. And Jess, in my eyes, Jess has the best rotation in your division. And we'll get into this later. I think Jess has the best pitching from top to bottom, bullpen and starting rotation in the entire league, actually. So even though it sucks that neither one of those teams could make a deep run in the playoffs last year, it pays off when you have a top 4 pick and you can get starters like Strider and Verlander.
Absolutely. Going at number 5, the Broad Street Bats, who made it for the first time in franchise history to the second round of the playoffs. They took LeJon James, took Kyle Wright, starting pitcher from the Atlanta Braves, which at that time when that pick was taken, I felt that was an absolute correct pick for his franchise. Literally only had Yu Darvish and Shohei Ohtani literally coming back from that rotation that was set in stone. Everybody else was kind of written in sand. But Kyle Wright was a no-brainer. It turned out the Stratomatic card-making gods did not love Kyle Wright too much. So the pick might come back and backfire, but then again, you never know, because last year, one of the worst number 1 picks in the first round was Dylan Cease, and he had one of the best seasons as the 5th starter of Lockport. So you never know. It's all about the roll of the dice. But yeah, Kyle Wright, number 5, Atlanta Braves starting pitcher for the Broad Street Bat.
And I'm going to disregard what the card looks like. When John made that pick for the Broad Street Bats, I was very, very impressed. I was not expecting him to go starter there, even though he needed to. I was not expecting him to go starter there. I was very, very impressed with the Kyle Wright pick. There might have been a starter or 2 that could have gone in that spot as well. None of them would have been the wrong pick. But I give him an A. I absolutely give him an A+ in that spot. He needed to go starter to try and add on to the Yu Darvish, and who's 36 years old, and Shohei Ohtani, who, with the new rules this year for our league, he can hit and pitch in the same game. And if he gets hurt as a hitter, he's hurt as a pitcher. So he really needs to shore up. He really needed to shore up his rotation, not only his 1 through 5, but also a 6, 7 to really protect him in case of a Shohei Ohtani injury.
Yeah, I mean, just in case. And we had 4 pitcher injuries last year. 2 of them came in the same game when Chandler had their starter hurt, Sonny Gray, and then Chris Flexen came out from the minor leagues and got in the start, and then he got hurt.
Yep.
And then he had to bring in another starter. Thank God he had another starter to pitch. Combine those other 2 starters missed 7 games. So, I mean, it's
and I lost Tyler Glass now against Broad Street in the very first inning. First 2 rolls were 6-6-6 and 5-5-5. Boom. 2 pitches, 2 batters in, gone. Luckily, last year I had a bullpen that could withstand that. I think I ended up winning that game actually in like 10 innings. But it's not fun, especially if it's early in the game. when you have to try and then manage your bullpen a little bit. It's not fun. So but overall, I was very, very impressed with John. I thought that was a great pick. Kyle Wright. The card may not have been what he wanted it to be or what we expected it to be. But like you said, Dylan Cease last year is a good comparable comparison. And Dylan Cease had a phenomenal year for Lockport. So who knows? Kyle Wright is, I believe, his number 2 starter. Let me scroll up here. Broad Street, yes. Kyle Wright is his 2 starter just behind Ohtani and in front of Darvish. So with those 2 guys sandwiched around him there, it's possible that he created that rotation properly, and he has a good core of 1, 2, 3 starters there. But John, I'll give you your props, man. That was a good pick with Kyle right there.
It was. Then number 6, First United Cobra Kai. They went with, which I kind of thought was a shocking pick because they had Sean Murphy coming back. They had a number 1 catcher. You didn't really need to go out there and get another number 1-ish type catcher. But, each manager has their own philosophy and methods in the draft. But you took Baltimore Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman. And, so now he has 2 defensive, good throwing catchers to do 1 and 2. And, I think he could have went with some outfield help there or maybe some bullpen. But, to shore up that catcher and knowing that you don't need a third, you don't need to waste a pick on a third catcher for another, 20 rounds. I guess that was kind of his philosophy.
Yeah, I part of me does like that Adley Rutschman pick there, because he's a left-handed heavy rotation. Even last year, he had 3 lefties in his rotation. So that takes Jesus Luzardo right out of the mix in the first round quality of starters. He went lefties later on in the draft, but takes Luzardo out of the running for him to go starter there. So that really realistically only leaves 3 right-handed starters that he could have gone in that pick. And the 3 went right after that with Stripling, Gowan, and Kelly. If he doesn't really feel the need to go after those with how many starters he pulled back, you're going to go bat there. Because I think you can wait on bullpen help till later on, and he did draft bullpen relatively well. He got his closer later in the late rounds with Daniel Bard. So I don't mind the Adley Rutschman pick there. The only thing with Rutschman is he doesn't hit lefties. So if he's facing 2 lefties in a series, he's going to probably play Rutschman against righties and Murphy against lefties because Murphy hits both sides pretty well. But at the same time, it gives him defense against both, regardless if it's a lefty or a righty going. There's a lot of speed in our league. I think speed's only going to get heavier the next couple of years in our league with new Major League Baseball bases getting bigger, the new pickoff rules, which are going to entice people to steal a little bit more after the pitchers tried to pick you off a couple times. Rutschman and Murphy are 2 great pieces to have behind the plate. And that also gives him 2 catchers that he can bring over every year and not have to worry about drafting a 3rd catcher until way down the road.
Agreed. And I think I agree with the speed game that's going to pick up in Major League Baseball this year. But at the same time, where you're going to see the speed game and a little bit of the small ball pick up, you're going to see a large decrease in catching, defense, and throwing out because it's a lot more predictable in the last 8 years of baseball to know when guys would be running and the catchers. Yeah, you got to make a good throw, but when you know the guy's running, it's easier to get off uncork that great throw. But now when you got guys that are going to be running at will because pitchers are afraid to waste a pickoff play or a catcher, because remember, if a catcher snap throws back to first base, that counts towards a pickoff move that a pitcher cannot make now. So it's going to open up the floodgates, per se, when it comes to the running game.
Yeah.
So you're really going to who the good throwing catchers are. and who the ones that were good because the running situation was predictable. And also, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the pitchers to hold on base runners better, but under a time clock, they're not going to be able to hold the ball as long. So the floodgates are going to open. You're going to see a lot of, I think, -3, -2, -1 catchers that are going to be -1 to zeros next year.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see your top tier arms are going to be the ones that are still okay. Maybe they're not -4s, but maybe they're -3s instead. You're going to see your Salvador Perez's, and not to toot my own horn, but your Martin Maldonados, the guys that are even in down years. Maldonado's a 1 -2 this year. You're going to see those really good arms, even in down years, still have 2, 3, 4 arms. Yadier Molina, even though he's retired now, and he's in his final season as well. You're not going to, and Real Muto, you're not going to see many of those really powerful arms or those lucky cards where it's like, oh, I drafted this guy. He's a 2 -4 this year. Wonderful. It's going to be different with the new pickoff rules for sure.
Yeah, and Yadier Molina was like a genius retiring after
Yep.
last year. Doesn't take away from his legacy.
Yep.
We move on to the 7th pick of the first round. We're going to speed this up a little.
Yeah.
We're already Phoenix took Toronto Blue Jays starting pitcher, which they needed to address starting pitching, Ross Stripling, which was a reunion in sorts because Phoenix did have Ross Stripling a couple seasons ago.
Speed it up. Great pick by Phoenix. I give her an A. She needed rotation help, just like a couple other teams did. She's got Joe Musgrove at the top of the rotation, which is great. She brought back Evaldi. She drafted Tyone and Skubal later on in the draft. Her hitting is going to kill people. Her hitting is going to crush people's souls. So she shored up the rotation just enough this season. I'll get into predictions later. She's going to have a good season.
Yes. We go on to the 8th pick, Lockport, who last year going into the season was the defending champs. They did not make it to the World Series, losing in the American League Championship Series. They went after another starting pitcher that was in the league prior a couple of times on a couple of different teams, but one of the best seasons of his career per date, Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Great pick. Again, these first round picks were all really, really solid. I give Lockport an A for that. He pairs Gallen with Wheeler and Cease, and then Garrett Cole, who's going to be his number 5 this year. Phenomenal pick from him. His rotation, I'm not going to say 1 or 2 because I already mentioned who I think my number 1 and 2 rotations are in the league, in Leonardo and then Scooterville. But I think Lockport is going to fight for that number 3 rotation in the league, behind probably you. I think you have a really solid rotation as well. I think you and Lockport are going to be that 3-4 rotation in the league this year. But I thought it was a great pick. He went smart. He didn't try and get too fancy and go bat. I know he had his eyes on a couple other guys. Great pick by Robbie and Lockport.
Going into the 9th pick, Jersey Shore, no pun intended, shored up their rotation by picking Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher Merrill Kelly, adding them to a rotation that already included Jacob deGrom and Carlos Rodon. So Merrill Kelly kind of slides into that middle of the rotation type guy. And that was the spot where I was kind of a loss for words because a couple of guys went early that I did not expect. And then Gallen was in my immediate radar. And I was trying to avoid picking up another lefty since last year I did have at times 3 lefties in my rotation. Two of them being power lefties, which was okay, but I just wanted to stay away from that situation. So I went with Merrill Kelly of the Diamondbacks, and was not 100% happy with the turnout of his card. But I will say, if I was to rate his card from A to C of expectation, it was probably like a B+.
Yeah. It was like you said, you didn't want to go lefty again, so that took out Luzardo there. Behind those three that just went back to back to back, and Stripling, Gallen, and Kelly, if you don't want to go lefty, Merrill Kelly's the only choice to go in the first round there. You could have gone, maybe you could have gone somebody who I took in like the fourth round. You could have gone like a Luis Severino. But again, I think that would have been too far of a stretch to take him in the first round. You made the right decision in taking Merrill Kelly, even if his card isn't exactly what you wanted. I still thought it was a good pick.
All right, rounding out the first round was Middletown. They took Miami starting pitcher, left-handed Jesus Luzardo, which we have mentioned a bunch of times already during this draft, and a guy that made his way back into the league after about 3 seasons of being absent.
Yeah.
Last seen on the first United Cobra Kai.
Yeah. He had a great season last year. I told myself there was a lot of lefty starters in this draft that were worthy of a rotation spot. And after guys like Merrill Kelly went, Zach Gallen, Ross Stripling, I was like, okay, I had my eye on Luzardo the entire time, and that's who I really wanted to take. A guy like Stripling or Gallen fell to me, I probably would have taken one of them in the first round. But even with carrying over Framber Valdez into my rotation, I was fine making 2 lefties in my rotation. Luzardo is going to be the ace. Framber is going to fall into the 3 spot. So yeah, I was very happy with his card too. His card's really, really solid. Right side, he's got 1 bad roll. Left side, he really doesn't have a bad roll. So I'm really, really happy there. A lot of lefty power lineups in this league though, so he's going to have to avoid some trouble. But I'm confident in his card, and he goes 6 innings, which last year I didn't have any of. So I'll take it any day of the week.
So round 1's in the books. If we're gonna rate this from A to C, round 1 in the 2023 draft, how would you rate the draft as a whole?
I give it an A. Maybe I say an A-. I'll give it an A- because it was maybe every pick addressed a need. Maybe it wasn't the number 1 need that we thought that team should have grabbed in that spot. But overall, I would say an A- because I really, really thought everybody got what they needed there. What did we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starters go in the first round. So people shored up their rotations like they should have. We had Julio Rodriguez, who was a consensus number 1 pick. We had Michael Harris, who's going to hit against righties really well. And we had Adley Rutschman, who's going to hit against righties well and shores up behind the plate.
I agree with you.
People address needs, and they address smart positions.
Definitely better than the last 2 seasons.
Yes.
First rounds were a lot of head-scratching draft picks that were made. Some paid off, during the season because of the roles. Some paid off because they wound up having good years the following year in Major League Baseball. But as far as the at-time draft for Stratomatic, some of them were a little head-scratching. But, we move on to the second round, and the New Jersey Killers are right back up, and they took a position that I felt was so bad, left field, so bad. Slim pickings, and some of the ones that were available were going to be prorated, so you couldn't even get away with using them all year. You were forced to keep left fielders that were already on your team, whether you wanted them or not, because you just needed someone. Outside of maybe third base, left field was probably the worst position, but he got one of the best there are. Cleveland Indians left fielder Stephen Kwan.
And you said arguably one of the best. I actually think he was the best left fielder who was not prorated. Because there's some prorated left fielders that might have been slightly better, but they're going to be platooned because they only hit righties or lefties. Kwan, even being a lefty, he still hits lefties pretty well. And he crushes righties really well. Even if he's going to be W with no power against lefties, he still hits both sides very well. Great defensively. He's a guy that I actually wanted to take in this round. I had a backup just in case at third base, like you actually mentioned. I actually have a utility guy who's going to be playing third base, who I took later on. But I thought it was a phenomenal pick. I was a little upset that he took him right there. But Stephen Kwan, great pick by Kenny there. Again, in the outfield, which he needed. So
we move on to the second pick of that round, Scooterville, who absolutely had a game plan and stuck with it. Probably, like I said, easily the best draft of her Stratomatic career, which
yes,
ranges across and easily I would say the best draft in this class of 2023. But to take catcher from the Toronto Blue Jays, shock there, Alejandro Kirk. And then again to throw a little loop in there, she was like, "All right, welcome to the team, Alejandro Kirk. You can leave your catching equipment in the clubhouse because you are our DH."
Yeah, exactly. And even though we're not going to go over round 6, which is our ringer round, she took Trevino from the New York Yankees behind the plate. So he's probably going to be starting most times. She's going to have Yadier Molina, who we mentioned before. She's going to have Kirk as her DH, but as basically an emergency catcher. God forbid somebody gets hurt. And then she also drafted Carson Kelly later on as a fourth catcher who's going to sit in the minors and just come up in case of emergencies. Phenomenal pick. Hits both sides great. He's going to DH. She's got a couple other guys that can DH here and there, like Bo Bichette. She traded away Yandy Diaz to you, who could have DH'd as well. I thought it was a phenomenal pick by her. Great bat. Shores up her offense even more. And that is going to be one fierce team to compete with offensively and defensively down the stretch in this league.
Agreed. Then we get into pick 13, Chandler Diamondbacks up, and the shortstop class was very small when it came to most teams had a returning shortstop. Some teams had multiple shortstops. Some teams had shortstops on their team, but they really had no interest in playing that shortstop on that team. Kind of like me with Jose Iglesias.
Yeah.
So the shortstop pick was slim. This was the round where I had the most anxiety. I needed a shortstop. I lost Nicky Lopez as my go-to shortstop because he had a mediocre year, was hurt a lot, played multiple. Alberto Mondesi did not play enough to qualify as a card, got retained as a no-card guy for next year. And then Jose Iglesias, as expected, did not have the defensive rating that would want as a starting shortstop. So it was like, crap, I needed a shortstop. But Chandler took one of the two marquee names that most people were going to chase in this draft early. He took Houston shortstop, rookie phenom, Jeremy Pena.
And even if somebody may not agree with his first round and his second round picks there, and Michael Harris and Jeremy Pena, he stuck with his plan. He went youth, and he went youth at positions that are very, very important in Stratomatic. Center field, and then in this pick, shortstop. Pena might have a iffy E rating, but I also rocked a 2E36 last year at shortstop and Fernando Tatis, and I had no problem with it. Maybe a couple errors here and there. You roll the X chart. If you roll the split, you know what? So be it. Get the next out. I thought Pena was a good pick there. He was actually contemplating him in the first round. I'm actually glad he waited on Pena till round 2. And now he has a shirt up center fielder and a shirt up shortstop. I know Pena hits lefties slightly better than righties. But with, again, like I said, 13 lefties in this in the starting rotations for all of our teams this year total, he's going to get plenty of at-bats against lefties. He's more than fine batting ninth against righties or whatever it's going to be for him. Great pick in Jeremy Pena.
He gives him youth, gives him pop, gives him speed.
Yep.
Gives him some defense. He's going to give him some base running ability. So I mean, it's a good pick. I mean, he's a kid.
Yeah.
This was the first head scratching pick,
yes.
in my opinion. But again, when your team is pretty deep and you don't necessarily need marquee players at every position,
mm-hmm.
where some take somebody to block another team from getting them.
Yeah.
One was a little head scratching. The 14th overall pick, Leonardo, took New York Yankees second baseman Gleyber Torres, who, yes, has pop, but he's not defensively inclined. He doesn't get on base, and he strikes out.
Yeah. Funny enough, while you were introducing that pick, I looked up his defense, and it's actually not as bad as we thought it was. It's a 3.10 at second base, which isn't the worst thing in the world. The 3 is not the best, but E10 you can absolutely sacrifice. You can absolutely roll with there. And he may not have had the best year for a second-round pick. He only batted .257. He had 24 home runs. He had 526 at-bats. He had a 4.1 WAR. It may not have been the round that we took, but if you have your eye set on somebody and you really want to go with it, then stick your plan and go with it. Don't second guess yourself. Like I said with Richie with the pick before, he had a plan. He went youth. He went important positions, and it shores up the middle of the lineup for him. Gleyber's a guy that is even on both sides. He batted .257 against righties, .256 against lefties. On base percentage might be a little iffy. Slugging's really solid. OPS was pretty solid. He's going to have a little pop for you, have a lot of extra base hits with doubles against righties. Not the pick that I would have, but again, it's not. It was a head-scratching pick, but when you look into it a little bit deeper, it could have been a lot worse.
Could be, but I'm thinking as a new manager in the league, your second pick overall in the draft, you don't really have a second on your current franchise's roster. Gleyber Torres was probably not the top 5 second basemen that I would have taken. But again, not my team, not my plan. Who knows? Gleyber Torres could wind up, hit 25 home runs in this league. Who the frick knows?
He could. We've seen crazier stuff. I don't know. Maybe like a third catcher, final pick of the league, winning the Triple Crown or the home run title. What was it with your boy?
Robinson Chirinos. Yes. Home run RBI title. Adrian Gonzalez won the batting title.
Yes, there you go.
15th overall pick, Broad Street, went with right fielder from the Cleveland Indians, Oscar Gonzalez. I think on paper, this was a draft pick he probably wanted to make.
It's in the chart as center field. It is right field, not center field. I couldn't remember if you said that. It's right field.
At right field.
Okay.
But yes, the problem is, going into this draft, Broad Street already had Bryce Harper, who he most likely was going to know couldn't play the field, and he had Ronald Acuna. So that's your 2 marquee right fielders. And then you draft Oscar Gonzalez, which he probably, because, when you look at a stat sheet or you look at baseballreference.com, whatever, and you see, boom, center field. Instead of scrolling down to see how many games these players played at said positions, and you would have realized that Oscar Gonzalez only played right field.
Yes.
So, and he did not play it very well. So offensively, it's on paper, it's a good pick for your second pick. But the overall scheme of things was you put a logjam of 3 right fielders who can't catch the ball.
And also, to add on to that, make it 4 right fielders, because later on in the draft, he picks Seiya Suzuki, who once again only plays right field. So now that puts a logjam for him of 4 players. Take Bryce Harper out of it. 3 players that only play right field. So you're either going to put one of them in the minors, or you're going to roster 4 right fielders with Acuna. It's going to cause problems.
It's most likely going to be Acuna and right. Suzuki's going to come in and play some defense, and he's going to have to platoon the DH positions between Harper and Gonzalez.
He's not going to be DH in either one of them, because he's got Ohtani at DH. Yeah.
then you're going to be without the National League MVP.
Yeah, it causes a very big log jam at right field / DH for him. And all of those guys made his major league roster too. Ohtani obviously made the roster. He's 2 cards. Acuna made the roster. Gonzalez made the roster. Harper made the roster. And Suzuki made the roster. So he has all of those players, 5 players basically fighting for 2 spots between right field and DH.
Well, he's going to have some coaching to do.
Yes.
Let's see. 16th overall pick, First United Cobra Kai. Not somebody I would have taken so early in the draft, but he needed to assess a need. And he did that with power hitting Gold Glove first baseman from the Diamondbacks, Christian Walker.
Yeah. He gets that defense at first base. That's something that you're never going to have to worry about at that spot. I like the pick, just not the round. I think Christian Walker was a good pick if he was picking a couple rounds later. Again, if you're focused on your needs and you really have a player in mind and you don't want to be taken later, you said it yourself before. Go after the guys that you want then. I feel like maybe he could have gone a different route there, but once again, Christian Walker has pop. His card may not be phenomenal. He's not going to have 15 ways on base on each side or anything like that, but he's going to have power in good spots as he hit a lot of home runs last season.
17th overall pick went to Phoenix. She addressed a situation that where last year she had a gazillion shortstops and actually traded one to you before the draft even started last year in Willie Adames in the deal that sent the number 1 pick to you and Mike Trout to her.
Yep.
She ran the chorus with Trey Turner, Tim Anderson, and Nick Ahmed last year.
Yep.
Came back this year where Trey Turner was only playing shortstop and Tim Anderson had a terrible defensive year, couldn't even stay on the field. So she filled a need with a backup shortstop and Chicago Cubs shortstop who also I think plays third base as well, but not as well as he plays shortstop. But Nico Horner.
Offensively, that was the best available player in my mind in the round. He hit phenomenally last year. And if she has somebody who plays multiple positions on her everyday major league roster, she could DH him. Even though he's a 1, she could DH him, put Turner at short, and then have somebody as a backup for that game. And God forbid Turner gets hurt, you put in that backup at shortstop, and then boom, next game you roll Nico right into shortstop, and you're fine. So I thought it was a phenomenal pick. There was a couple people that really, really wanted Nico Horner. I was surprised that he didn't go sooner, specifically for a team. There was another team that really targeted Nico Horner. I'm surprised he didn't go in round 1 because he could have been a round 1 player for sure. But I thought that was a steal in round 2 for Phoenix.
Yep, I agree. And if he was taken in the first round, that would have dropped some pitchers down. So
exactly.
You never know what's going to happen until it happens. So Lockport went next, 18th. They took starting pitcher from the LA Dodgers, assessed a need in the rotation to not only add pitching, but add some younger pitching in Tyler Anderson.
I was surprised that Lockport went starter in the first 2 rounds. I was not expect Lockport to go starter both rounds. I knew he would go 1. He would go 1 of the 2 rounds as a starter. He went starter in both, and I really like Tyler Anderson. He was one of my top couple starters that I targeted in. And if I didn't get Luzardo in round 1, I probably would have targeted Tyler Anderson. I thought it was a good pick. He's only going to have 1 lefty in his rotation in Anderson. He pieces him right in between all of his other, and that actually shored up his rotation too, because he carried over 3 starters, drafted Gallen, and then drafted Anderson. So boom, you get your starters in round 1 and 2. Don't have to worry about starters later on in the draft. I really like the pick a lot. I definitely give that an A rating for that round.
Yep. Then we move on to number 19. My pick, Jersey Shore. And not to toot my own horn, but I feel like this shortstop was the best total package shortstop that was
Yes.
available. He batted for average. He had pop. He drove in runs. He stole bases. He plays good defense, and he can run. He's a 1-17 running. Someone I had on my franchise in his early days with the New York Mets before he actually settled in. He was part of that Francisco Lindor trade to Cleveland. And that shortstop from the Guardians, which I was ecstatic because this was a very high anxiety round for me because I needed that shortstop. And to get Ahmed Rosario, I was very ecstatic.
No, great pick. Like you said earlier, shortstop was a very shallow position in terms of quality players that can start every day and not just come in for defense, or guys who hit and don't play defense. To be honest, he's probably the last one. Like, he's the last full package shortstop that was available that wasn't already on somebody's team. So I thought it was the best pick you could have made there, especially at shortstop. And a couple other guys might be platooning lefties and righties and this and that at that position. You're not going to have to worry about that. You have a surefire guy who can play there, and God forbid, God forbid he gets hurt. You have other guys who can piece in at least offensively and defensively. It may not be the total package like Rosario is, but you're going to be able to combine a couple players to make it work for however long Rosario would be out for.
Yeah, I'm set when it comes to middle infield. I got multiple guys that play second, short, and third, and then I also have Jose Iglesias sitting in the minors. Despite being the 3E12, the guy can rake. So sad that I can't have him up, but it's all right. Then we go to the final pick of the second round, pick number 20 that went to you, Middletown. You took St. Louis third baseman Brendan Donovan.
Yeah, it's not his best position. He plays second a lot better. He's probably going to play second most of this season. I'm starting him at third because that's where I had a need. He's a 3E30 at third base, so don't get me wrong. I'm going to run into trouble defensively. I did pick up Jace Peterson way at the end of the draft, who's going to play third base defensively for me late in games. But Donovan hits really well on both sides. He's a lefty who hits lefties and righties great. I needed offensive production because a lot of my guys struggled last year. A lot of my big-time carryovers struggled. So him and Steven Kwan were the two guys that I needed in this round. I may have missed Kwan because New Jersey took him, but I got Brendan Donovan. I needed a third baseman because Heimer Candelario had a terrible year, and unfortunately the World Series MVP is no longer on the Bearded Bandits this year. So Brendan Donovan, he gives me flexibility at other positions. I can play him in left field. I can play him at second base. He's like a 4 at shortstop. So I was very, very happy with that pick. I got my guy. So yeah, I was ecstatic about being able to take him there.
All right, so round 2 is in the books, giving a rating from A to C. This particular, because of a couple of picks that I felt didn't make sense or weren't well thought out, I would give this a B-.
Yeah, because there was a couple picks that were good and very much needed. The Kwans, the Kirks, even the Peñas, Tyler Anderson, Rosario Donovan. But then there was a couple others that might have been better suited taking somebody else. So yeah, you're right. I think a B- is fair. Good in some areas, could have been better elsewhere.
So we'll cap off our draft recap with the third round. New Jersey again kicks it off the 21st pick. And they took an outfielder from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim in Taylor Ward.
Good pick. It then right off the bat shores up his outfield from left to right, straight through. He's got Kwan, Rodriguez, and Ward, who all three of them can hit both sides. Good pick. I think he's going to have a set outfield. There's certain other areas where New Jersey might struggle, but he's going to be okay in the outfield. I think he's going to be set. he had his mind going into the draft, what he wanted to do and who he wanted to target. He went after those guys. He got them. And his outfield's now good. And again, not only good, but good long-term. He's got some youth out there.
Scooterville went next, 22nd pick. This is probably the one of the rare picks that great on paper, made all the sense in the freaking world. And kind of like Kyle Wright, when she got that card, it was wrong.
Yeah.
He raised starting pitcher Jeffrey Springs.
Yeah, he's gonna get a lot of spot starts. He's gonna pitch out of the bullpen a little bit here and there too. You never know what those Tampa Bay pitchers in general are gonna do. I had multiple of them last year. You don't know how they're going to utilize those pitchers. I thought Jeffrey Springs, his card was gonna be a little bit better. I also think this is the one pick. Honestly, I think this was the one pick in her entire draft that I was kind of like, think she went a little early. I think she might have even been better suited of going after those relievers, which she went after in the next couple rounds. It was the one pick from her that was a little questionable. I still give her an A overall in the draft. But the Jeffrey Springs card was a little underwhelming.
Rough. Moving on, Chandler Diamondbacks with the 23rd pick. They addressed some starting pitching issues that they had, being short in the rotation. They took Seattle Mariners starting pitcher George Kirby.
Kirby card, to be honest. He made his rotation as his number 3. So it must have been good enough to actually get him into that rotation. I definitely felt like there was better starters out there, but to go with his theme of the draft, youth. He went young at all positions. So if you're going to do it right. And he did it right in that sense. He picked his youth at the positions that were needed.
Leonardo went next with the 24th pick. This was another pick that was kind of confusing because he brought back Wilson Contreras as a holdover from the year before.
Mm-hmm.
He also had on that team Jan Gold, but decided not to retain Jan Gold, but to let him go, who he wound up getting drafted by Phoenix later on in the draft, which is going to kill him because it's in his division, and Jan Gomes had a good year and winds up having a good card. But there was plenty of other catchers out there that would have went and should have went a lot earlier than Kansas City's catcher and Kansas City's backup catcher, no less.
Yeah.
MJ Melendez.
MJ has a lot of upside to him. I don't think he's going to help him this season. I can't remember if he made his I think he's in the minors for him. I don't think he made his major league roster to start the season, at least. He definitely could have utilized the pick elsewhere. But if you're focusing on certain positions that you wanted, and if you don't plan on playing him and you really wanted to just go youth there, Melendez also has outfield eligibility. Might not be great, but he has outfield eligibility, I believe, in left field. Could have been a better pick, but I like Melendez as a whole, looking forward to the future.
Yeah, I mean, he did go out and draft Keibert Ruiz of the Nationals in the 16th round. He also drafted William Contreras, formerly of the Braves, giving him some really young catching. I don't know how much defense he's going to get out of him, but if your pitching staff is as good as his is, and you're able to hold the other team down from scoring, then getting on base is the number one priority of the opposing team. So it's not really going to affect his catches if he doesn't let anybody on base. Exactly.
So I mean, if you're looking at the best team that could have drafted the catchers that he did, and maybe his catchers aren't going to be -4s and this and that. I believe Wilson Contreras as a -2, I think, is his best catcher. If there's any team that's going to have a backstop of those guys, his team's the one to do it, because not a lot of people are going to get on base with that rotation.
And then Broad Street, 25th overall here in the 3rd round, probably the best pick of the rounds. Much neat back end of the rotation. Closer, needed this guy. He's gotten lucky in the past with guys he was able to use as closers that with the new rules would not be able to do with in years past. But he took St. Louis reliever Ryan Hesley, and that's easily, I think, in this round the best player select.
Absolutely. I was actually planning on taking Helsley in this round. And then I was planning on taking somebody else that gets taken before me as well. So I thought the Helsley pick was phenomenal. First reliever off the board, best reliever off the board. He's a closer 6, so he's going to be able to utilize him properly as his closer. It was a great pick by him. He had some head scratching picks in his draft, and he had some that was phenomenal type picks in this draft.
Just much Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from Broad Street, where it was like,
yes.
Oh man, he really did homer, and then 2 rounds later, it was like, what the fuck?
Like for instance, like we just mentioned, round 1, pick Kyle Wright. We're like, wow, awesome. Oscar Gonzalez, Ryan Helsley, that's freaking awesome. So it was like back and forth, like you mentioned, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the entire draft.
And then round 4, Nick Lodolo.
Who realistically though, I think that was he could have taken Lodolo like super late, but his card isn't the worst in the world. Like nobody's gonna stack lefties against a lefty. He doesn't give up hits against lefties though. And his right side is but that was one of the picks that I consider like dead even medium for him. It was just very early for Lodolo.
Okay, continuing in the 3rd round, 26th pick overall. First United, Cobra Kai took Chicago Cubs left fielder who had, I think, overall total package, offensively and defensively, had the best year of his career. I'm pretty sure he was also the left field recipient of the Gold Glove and Ian Happ.
I love that pick. He was a guy that I really, really wanted. I thought I was going to be able to take him a little bit later. I thought Sean and Cobra Kai did a phenomenal job with that pick. He's going to be able to play him, I believe, on both sides of the ball. He's going to have pop. He's a switch hitter. He plays good defense and left. I believe he's like a 2-1 or something like that. Out there with a good E rating. Great pick by Cobra Kai.
Absolutely. I liked it. And he was in our league before. He was a couple years ago. He was an all or nothing type guy. Punches stuff that home run, surrounded by 70% strikeouts. His career he's improved, which we always love to see.
Yeah.
Picks with the 27th pick, one of the better left field draft picks in the league, an on-base machine, a human target, franchise record for hit by pitches in a season, with an astronomical video game total, but also eligible in right field as well, which also will help her with depth. With if Yastrzemski doesn't hit the ball, she can move him to right field. But Mets left fielder Mark Canha.
Great pick by Phoenix. He's going to get on base for her. I think Mark Canha I think Phoenix was the perfect spot for Mark Canha there because she has guys around that entire lineup who are going to drive in runs. Between she has Goldschmidt, Turner, Trout, Yastrzemski, Anderson when he plays, Nico Horner, who she took earlier in this draft. She has guys who are going to drive runs in. Just get on base. All Canha needs to do is just get on base, and people are going to drive, and guys are going to drive him in. So I think Phoenix is the perfect landing spot for Canha there. I think he's going to do really well with her. He's going to get on base. He's going to score a lot of runs, probably lead the league in hit by pitches. But great pick by Phoenix there.
His hit by pitch, it looks a lot like the what was that, the 2015 season of Jeff McNeil.
No, it was even the 19 when you took him the first year we came back and you picked him in like the 6th round. He had a crazy amount of hit by pitches on his card.
6.
I have some guys with 4, so
he had in one of his columns he had 3 in a row. It was like 2-2 hit by pitch injury, 2-3, 2-4 hit by pitch, and then 2-12 hit by pitch. I love the 2 column. But And then I know this pick stung a little to you. 28th pick overall. Lockport taking probably the best, second best reliever available at this point. Taken LA Dodgers relief pitcher Evan Phillips.
Yeah, because I pivoted when Broad Street took Helsley. I immediately, boom, cool. Helsley was number one on my list. Evan Phillips was number two. So I was like, cool, I'm going to pivot, go right to Evan Phillips. Had him set, ready to draft him. Boom. Lockport takes to Evan Phillips. So I had to pivot again. And you'll see the reliever that I took in a couple minutes. But great pick by Lockport. Needed to shore up his bullpen even more. Playing Lockport a lot during spring training. His bullpen in certain areas is a little shaky. But overall, I think this pick specifically was phenomenal.
Next pick was the 29th pick that went to Jersey Shore. And again, not to use that pun, shored up the catching ranks that already consisted of Salvador Perez. And that was another reuniting of Atlanta catcher Travis d'Arnaud.
Great pick. d'Arnaud was on my list. He had his best year behind the plate, I believe. His arm was really solid. He played good defense overall, and he hit the ball both sides really well. I thought it was a great. Say that again.
Still kills lefties though.
Yeah. Phenomenal pick for you. I really, really like d'Arnaud. Former Met, unfortunately, plays for Atlanta now. But yeah, no, I really, really like that pick for you. Pair him up with a couple other guys that you have, Sal and some other catchers. But I like it a lot.
We got the Royal Salvador Perez, Atlanta's Travis d'Arnaud, and the New York Yankees Kyle Higashioka.
Yes, that was your other catcher that you drafted.
That was a sentimental pick. I mean, great defensive catcher. He's got an arm. He hits a little, not somebody I would live with as a starter, but as a third catcher, he's fine. But people who know me, I was the official scorer for the Staten Island Yankees for 15 years. And Kyle Higashioka was one of those guys that came through the system, and I got to see him for a whole season. And an autographed baseball from him when I threw out the first pitch at Damage Day at the ballpark, and I will cherish that ball forever.
Love it. Love it.
All right. Number 30, final pick of the third round, Middletown. I had to fix the entry on that. The admin apparently didn't like the organization of his name. LA Dodgers. Is he a pitcher?
A relief pitcher. Oh, it says right fielder. It's relief pitcher.
Relief pitcher, Yency Almonte.
Yeah. Like I said, I had to pivot twice in that round. But that's why you come prepared to these drafts, because there's going to be rounds like this where somebody gets taken, you pivot. Somebody gets taken, you have to pivot again. Almonte's phenomenal. He has no hits against lefties. Not strikeouts against lefties though. He's a righty who gets out lefties though. His right side is still really solid as well. He's going to be a setup man for me. Gonna stretch him some innings depending on how people's rosters are constructed. Their lineups are constructed. But Yency Almonte, I was really happy with that. He shores up my bullpen a little bit more with a couple other guys that I took later on. So yeah, I was very, very happy there.
So I would say that round, I would give that round a B+.
Yes.
Now I'm going to skip all the way down to the 6th round, and I'm just going to name the draft picks that were taken in the 6th round. For those who don't know our rules or familiar with it, 6th round, you're allowed to take batters. Our threshold is 360 plate appearances for the first 5 rounds. And then after that, you have to have at least 100 plate appearances. But you will be prorated based on the amount of at-bats per 162 games divided into our 66-game season. So you got to be careful who you pick because you might not be able to use them for the entire season. A lot of the people took some guys, and when the pro ratings came out, it was like a literal slap in the face with a piece of marble. But this is how it makes us better managers and GMs, is that we get to use the entire team, which we expanded by 2 players this year to follow Major League guidelines. But Scooterville went first. Oh, nope, sorry, went too far.
New Jersey.
There we go. New Jersey went first with a pick that didn't really fall into that category of we can put ringer card. He took lefty reliever from the Atlanta Braves, AJ Minter. Nothing fancy. He had a plan. He needed somebody that shuts down lefties. He went after AJ Minter. So nothing really to talk about. Scooterville shored up their catching core, and they didn't even get Carson Kelly yet. That happened later in the draft. They took Jose Trevino, who there's going to be a nice little Jose Trevino, Yadier Molina platoon with Alejandro Kirk as the DH against both sides. And also depending on who she's playing, Kirk might get a start. Who knows? But I mean, she's got 4 absolute quality catchers, and when Alejandro Kirk is our worst catcher of the defensively of the 4, I think you're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But to let everybody know what we mean about pro rating, Jose Trevino had 353 plate appearances in the 2022 season, falling under the threshold, obviously, of 360. So prorated to our 66-game season, he would be allowed to have no more than 144 plate appearances in our league, which if you do the math, you play 66 games at 3.5 plate appearances. A full season would be just under 200 plate appearances. So he won't miss that much time. And as a platoon, he's probably not going to really have to overmanage his plate appearances.
And it's catcher, too. And catchers have the same rule as bullpen arms do, where they can only start 2 out of the 3 games in a series. So, at most, he was going to be used 2 games a series anyway.
That's an automatic platoon.
Exactly.
Chandler then went with Arizona outfielder Jake McCarthy, which I know was a popular guy on everybody's radar. Jake McCarthy had 354 plate appearances in 2022 season, rounds out to our season to 144. That now he's going to have to manage a little bit because I think he was expecting Jake McCarthy to be a starter on his squad. If not, maybe he plays 2 out of every 3 games. He comes in for defense later in the game, doesn't affect plate appearances. He's fine.
Yep.
Leonardo took, which I didn't understand this pick, because he would have been available in like round 18. Giancarlo Stanton, the outfield DH of the New York Yankees. He does not need any pro rating full season. This one is the one that's going to come back and bite Broad Street in the rear. Colorado left fielder Chris Bryant. And the reason why I say that is because Chris Bryant only had 181 plate appearances during the regular season, which equate to our season 74 plate appearances.
Yeah.
So that's literally like 1 game a series.
Well, yeah, it's basically 1 game a series because you look at it 74. If you say he gets 3 plate appearances a game, 3 plate appearances a game, boom, you're 3.5, whatever it is. You're looking at 20 games during the season he can play.
That's going to be rough, and he has a good card, good offensive player.
Yeah.
But remember, remember when him and Bryce Harper were being compared to each other about being that next big thing?
Yeah, he was on my team during my 2019 World Series title run. He was
on Scooterville last year. And Scooterville
let him go.
She would have benefited because if she would have kept him, he would have been grandfathered in, and he
would have exactly. He wouldn't have had to be prorated.
First United Cobra Kai. They took outfielder from the St. Louis Cardinals, Lars Nootbaar, just the Japanese outfielder that just won the World Baseball Classic. He had 347 plate appearances last year, so he equates to 141 for our season, which is totally manageable if you wanted to start. This next one, it's a no-brainer. You had to take this person. It's not really. It's it's rough because he just really can't play that much. But Matt Carpenter of the New York Yankees, the DH slash right fielder slash first baseman slash DH again. Matt Carpenter is now in his second tenure with the Phoenix Dragons, and both these tenures have come under these circumstances where he played a partial season and tore it up.
Yep.
And she was a recipient of him in the draft. Matt Carpenter, though, he only had 154 plate appearances with the Yankees before getting shut down for injury. Came back late and struggled in the postseason. He's only good for 63 plate appearances during the regular season. That's gonna be rough. But you know what? That's also a big bat off the bench. Even if he gets one pinch hit a game, that's a big bat.
You start him on one side, whatever his best side is. You start him. I think funny enough, he's a lefty who I actually think hits lefties best. You start him against lefties. Maybe sit him once in a while, and then you have him as a big pinch hit bat off the bench in big spots for your weakest, which she doesn't have many holes offensively, but she's going to be able to use him in big spots.
No, but if you're down 2 late in the game, and one of your guys gets on base, and your next guy up to say Nico Horner doesn't have much power, does get on base, but you need that bomb. Here comes Matt Carpenter.
Yep, exactly. I totally agree. I like that pick. Didn't think he was going to get to that spot in the draft, but it works out well for him.
Well, we'll get into more of that in a little bit. The next pick in the 6th round went to Lockport. They took New York Mets utility infielder Luis Guillorme, who sits at 136 plate appearances for the season for us. That was a pick that Lockport did very well with. He's gonna play a lot of late inning defense at multiple positions for him as he moves his defense around. His defense actually, I would say, declined a little bit from last season. Not to mention his infield got a little older from last year. So a guy like Guillorme really helps him, but he's going to have to keep track of that plate appearance total. Despite having a fairly good hitting card against right-handed pitching, just being a left-handed batter, you're not going to be able to platoon him because there's going to be some series where you might face 3 righties, or 6-game series you're going to face 4 out of 6 right-handers, and you'll burn Guillorme out before the All-Star.
And with his defense, you don't want to burn him out because you really want to be able to play him late in the games. He's a 2E4 at second, and he's a 2E10 or 2E8 at third base. So one at second, and a 2 at third. You really want to be able to play him late in the game. So utilizing his offense properly, but also making sure you leave enough of a leeway to be able to keep him in late, bring him in late in certain games that he doesn't start.
Next pick, the 59th total pick of the draft. This was a head scratcher that this player even got to me. I think Nick was eating some wings at that time, and he had sauce all over his face, and he was really licking his lips, hoping that this guy did not go before he went. And but it happened. First baseman from the Nationals in the World Baseball Classic as well, Joey Meneses. Meneses only had 240 plate appearances in major leagues last year, equating to only 98 plate appearances for our season. But he will predominantly be a first baseman against left-handed pitching. So, based on what I did last year with platoons against lefties, that's kind of right on par between 75 and 95 plate appearances. And again, games that kind of get out of hand on either side, you take them out, get them out of the game, put somebody else in, save those at bats. Last year, Santiago Espinal played the exact amount of plate appearances needed for last year, and that was nuts how that wound up happening.
Yeah,
but it happened. So rounding out the 6th round, 60th pick, Middletown took first baseman from Kansas City, Vinny Pasquantino, another guy that is prorated, a little better than Meneses. He's at 121 plate appearances for the season, which is, very manageable for a first baseman because first baseman is a position where you can sneak a four in there every now and then, give a guy a day off, and play a little offense, and then maybe bring Pasquantino into defense late, and he might never get in at bat late in that game. So
yeah, he's. I mentioned Brendan Donovan earlier. Pasquantino is a lefty who hits lefties really well as well. So he's got to start against lefties because he has I think he has 18 on base chance, gets on base 18 times against lefties. Right side is a little bit less. So he's going to start against righties, but I have CJ Crone who's going to get some starts against righties as well, who I just made that roster move for. Sacrificing a little bit of defense at first base. Crone's a 3E10, Pasquantino's a 4E9. Going to sacrifice a little defense, not having Yuli Gurriel up. But I got to be able to manage properly early in the season so I can utilize his offense late in the season. And like you said, pinch hit form late in the game. I got other guys to play first base. God forbid CJ Crone starting and he gets hurt. I've already utilized Pasquantino as a pinch hitter. I got other first base guys who have a 40-20 at first. So Pasquantino's a guy that I wanted the entire time at the 6th round. Didn't think that guys like Meneses and Guillorme and Carpenter were going to last that long. So I got my guy in the 6th round, and I was very happy with it.
I wound up with the guy with the least amount of at-bats allowed in the prorated system, in Danny Mednick. He's only allowed 43. Yeah, 43 plate appearances. His card in season was going to be way too good to pass up on. I had 3 8th-round picks. He was one of those 8th-round picks. I was already joking with Nick. I said he's going to start the first 6 games of the season, and he's going to get sent down, and he's not going to be brought back up probably until after the All-Star break. It is what it is. Look, my entire 8th round is pretty good.
Yeah.
Danny Mednick, 40. Albert Pujols, 143, and Leody Tavares, 139. All manageable. All were going to be platooned anyway, so I really wasn't really concerned. Just a lot of very low amount of at bats. Corbin Carroll, 47. Garrett Stubbs, 49.
Jose Herrera.
Rob Refsnyder, 72. Nick Fortes, 98. Gunnar Henderson, 54. Jake Berger, 75. Debbie Zavala, 84. Sam Haggerty, 82. Jose Azokar, 88. Jose Herrera, 51. Let's see. Lewin Diaz, 71. Vaughn Grissom, 64. And Chris Bryant, he said 74. Austin Barnes, 86. That was everybody under 100 plate appearances. Most of those guys are going to be like the catchers or minor leaguers. They're just there for depth or the possibility of hoping to have a good year next year.
For me, you said Sam Haggerty. I believe you said 84. Haggerty's only starting against lefties, and he'll pinch hit, pinch run. So if you're platooning on the left side with one of those guys, then most of the time you're going to be okay. You're going to have to be a little smart about it, but you're going to be okay.
And then we had the one pitcher, Matt Manning, who is going to be available for 34 innings.
And he's in my minors anyway. Maybe he gets a spot start at the end of the season. That 34 innings, luckily, is barring crazy amount of injuries, as I have 3 starters in the minors. I'm not overly concerned about him.
We always got to have that one guy. Last year was Tyler McGill.
Glass now as well. But
yeah, but
he got injured, and he was going to have to miss 1 start, but he got injured and missed the final 2 starts of the season, so it ended up working out.
McGill only came up for that the final start.
For that spot start for Phil, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, let's break down the draft. I mean, A to C, we had We'll scroll down to the bottom. We had a total of 210 players selected in 24 rounds, with the last pick being Lockport's Spencer Torkelson of Detroit. What do you rate this draft from A plus to C minus
For as a whole,
overall?
for the whole league, I actually think it was overall better than most seasons that we've had, the recent drafts that we've had. We obviously went through the COVID shortened season where we drafted just after that, and that was very, very difficult. We had to change a lot of rules for that. Even as of last year, I definitely think this draft was a lot better. I'm going to give it a flat B. I felt like the earlier rounds were much better, but certain teams found depth late and found some sleepers late. I thought the bullpen draft picks were actually so much better than previous years. For instance, Scooterville, who drafted really, really well in her bullpen, not even counting Spencer Strider. Broad Street drafted pretty decent in the bullpen. So did Cobra Kai. I know I did. Lockport, you did. There was some really, really solid bullpen picks, but as a whole, from top to bottom, I'll give it a B flat.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say a B plus only because the last couple of years, some of our first two rounds were really, really head scratching. With like Corey Seager and what's the dude from the Yankees? That's not
Luke Voigt.
Voigt, that was a little head scratching, and then last year, Broad Street, who didn't have a third round pick. I'm gonna have to switch to. Hold on a second. Switch to the phone audio. All right. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Nope.
You can't hear me?
Now I can. You're good now.
Okay. So, last year with Broad Street not having a third round pick and then taking Shohei Ohtani as one, and then also had to take him as two as a batter's card, and then not having a third pick. So basically, he took one guy for the first three rounds, and he wound up having an awful, awful year on both sides of the ball for him, in the league, which, again, it's all dice roll, but, it was just a consistently bad season. 4.5 to 5 ERA as a pitcher, struggled about 150 as a batter, amongst the top three in the league in strikeouts as a batter. So it was, mixed bag of nuts with Ohtani.
Not even like the questionable picks. Some cards didn't turn out the way we wanted them to last year. And this first round, the 10 players that got taken in the first round, I think the one. Yeah, you said Merrill Kelly's card was iffy, but I think the only card that might struggle is Kyle Wright, because the rest of the cards visually were great. Everybody's Julio Rodriguez was great. Strider's phenomenal. Harris on the right side is great. Verlander great. Wright was a little disappointing. Rutschman great. Stripling great. Gallen great. Kelly good. And then Luzardo great. So I think the way the cards turned out helped make that first round a lot better than it possibly could have been.
Who do you think was the best picks for each team?
The best picks for each team. I'm gonna take the cheap one out for New Jersey and just say Julio Rodriguez.
Okay.
Needed an outfield, needed center field really bad. Went young, got literally the best player available. Absolutely loved that. I thought that was really, really good. For Scooterville, I am gonna go for Scooterville for she needed a lot of help in different areas. But for her, I'm gonna go a combination of some bullpen arms that she drafted. She drafted Munoz, Swanson, and one other bullpen arm.
Penn Murphy.
And Penn Murphy. The combination of those three guys for her in her bullpen and the way those cards look, I think are going to be a phenomenal addition with Jordan Romano and then having Spencer Strider as a relief pitcher 3 there. I thought that those 3 picks for her were phenomenal, and she has hands down arguably the best bullpen in the league and the best pitchers rotation and bullpen. I thought those picks were great.
Okay. Chandler, I would say Jeremy Pena. I think was a better pick over Michael Harris.
I was just going to say that too because he wanted Pena and he waited. And he got him in the second round where his value was even higher than it would have been earlier.
I agree. Leonardo.
It's hard not to go Verlander there because he just fell into his lap. And it was just such a great addition to his rotation. Here's one that we didn't think was going to be good that's really good is Felix Bautista in the 4th. His card turned out to be really, 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 really good. Going to be a closer for him. I'm going to go Felix Bautista here in the 4th.
Okay. I was actually going to go with Liam Hendricks. Liam Hendricks had a very good card. Is going to give him some crazy depth in the back end of that bullpen with a lot of power arms. And,
not sure if he's going to be in the league next year either. I mean, who knows if he's going to miss the full season or not.
Well, he only needs to appear once.
Yep.
So, let's see. Broad Street. I mean, everybody, it's easy to say Kyle Wright, but obviously we know that now not to be, a pick. So I guess we would have to say Ryan Hesley.
I was going to say Helsley for sure. He needed a closer. He needed a premier closer, especially with the new closer rules that we have in effect this year. I would definitely go Helsley for him for sure.
Yep. First United Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai, just scrolling through his draft here. Cobra Kai. I just want to see if there's any others besides the one that I was about to say. You could go Daniel Bard in the 7th, which I think is a steal. Mm-hmm. Again, going back to the new closer rule that we have this year, Daniel Bard could be a steal in the 7th. But I'm probably going to go with his where was he here? Cobra Kai. Where am I here? Oh, I'm going to go 3rd round Ian Happ. Cobra Kai might struggle to score a little bit here and there. And having a switch hitting outfielder in left field with good defense who hits well on both sides, I think that's going to benefit him, not having to worry about platooning out there. I'm going to go Ian Happ in the 3rd.
I'm actually going to go with somebody that's not even going to be starting for him, that is going to be a super valuable weapon off the bench, or it could be massive trade bait, and that's John Birdie.
Yeah, very much so. 3rd round, was that 3rd round for him? Fourth round.
Yep, 36 player taken overall.
Yep.
Let's see, Phoenix.
I am actually going to stick with the 4th round, and I'm going to go a guy who maybe, if you think about it now after seeing the card, maybe shouldn't have been released. I'm going to go DJ LeMahieu in the 4th.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick because it shores up every aspect of her defense, which really didn't need much Band-Aids, that's for sure.
If you want to talk about maybe needing to shore up maybe her E ratings in the infield, second base, shortstop, third base, E ratings might be a little questionable. So now you have LeMahieu, who plays second, third, and first base, which she has Goldschmidt at first, but God forbid Goldie gets hurt.
Right.
Boom, you can put LeMahieu there. He hits righties really, really well. I was looking to draft him to start against righties. Really, really, really like him. Plays 3 different positions really well, and hits well, at least against righties. So I'm gonna go DJ in the 4th round for her.
I'm going to go with a 5th-round pick, 47th overall. I'm going to go with her 5th starter, Tariq Skubal.
Great pick. Going back off of, I had already drafted a lefty, but Skubal was arguably the 3rd-rated lefty in our draft. I think Luzardo, Tyler Anderson, and Skubal were the top 3 lefties on the board, and I absolutely loved that Skubal pick for her in the 5th.
Okay. Next up is Lockport.
Lockport.
They had a solid, very, very solid 3 rounds. Could
Yeah.
take any one of those 3 guys easily.
I'm gonna go Zach Gallen in round 1 because
Okay.
I think that the way his rotation was constructed and having already Wheeler, Cease, and Cole locked in, and then taking Gallen in 1 and then Anderson in 2 in the 2nd round, your rotation is set after 2 rounds now. He didn't even have to take Anderson in round 2 if he didn't want to, but he did. And
Right.
taking Gallen and Anderson, the combo of the 1st and 2nd pick, and now having Wheeler, Gallen, Cease, Anderson, and Cole's card not being what it usually is, and Cole being his 5, I think that was a phenomenal pick going starter there and getting Zach Gallen at 1.
I agree. Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore. You went starter round 1, where if you didn't want to take Merrill Kelly there, you didn't have to. I'm gonna go with the steal of taking Ahmed Rosario at the end of round 2. Really needing a well-rounded shortstop who hits well, plays good defense, has the speed. A guy who's not prorated. You already saw a couple shortstops come off the board. I'm definitely gonna go Ahmed Rosario there.
I would agree with that too, because after Ahmed Rosario, the only real bona fide starter left on the board that wasn't going to be prorated was Elvis Andrews, who got drafted later on by Lockport.
Yeah.
So, and then you had Isaiah kind of Khalifa rounding out the top 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm happy with that. I would absolutely say that. It's funny because I never would have thought I would say that my highlight of my draft was Ahmed Rosario.
Ahmed Rosario, who as of 2 years ago was like,
they didn't even know if he was going to play outfield or infield.
Yeah.
So, moving on to Middletown. So your self-assessment.
My self-assessment. I had a lot of needs coming into the draft. I had a lot of holdovers that either didn't have a great year or only hit one side of the ball. Guys who I just held just for the fact that I know they're going to bounce back. I didn't want to take the chance of letting them go and not getting them back. I needed a lot of starter help as well. Luzardo was a good pick in the 1st round. He's my ace. His card was even better than I thought it was going to be. It's so tough to self-evaluate here, but I'm going to go Vinny Pasquantino in the 6th. I think that was the most important pick for me. I lost Brandon Belt, who's aging. He had the best year of his career in 2021. And yes, last year's card was just out of this world phenomenal. Helped lead me to a World Series. Vinny Pasquantino not only has a good card this year, even though he's prorated, but he has the stuff to become a long-term staple on my team. So I think not only was it important for me this season, but it's important going forward. And I really, really like Vinny Pasquantino in the 6th.
I mean, it's fair. I think your I mean, I don't want to say your best pick, but I'm gonna say that your sleeper pick, the pick that I think is going to contribute the most for you, wound up being the 130th player selected in the draft, and that's outfielder AJ Pollock.
Yeah, Pollock's going to start against lefties in center field for me. He's going to platoon with Cedric Mullins out there, crush his lefties, and hits righties okay. So, like, if there was a lefty starting and Jess brings in a righty, like we were talking about, she brings in Strider, and I decide to keep him in there, he can hit righties okay. Plays left field better than center field. Plays right field as well. Gives me a lot of flexibility to move some guys around. I like that Pollock pick. I still think he's got more in the tank. who knows? He could be a guy that I keep next year too. You never know.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, AJ Pollock is, it seems like he's been in the league forever. He's not that old, and he's been in this league numerous times on numerous teams, including my own. And it's funny. He was never really the good defensive guy. He was on Phoenix. He was on my team. He was on E Pluribus Unum. He was on Lockport.
He was all over the place.
And he was on Phoenix. He always wound up being like a 3-0, 3+1. And then seemed like after that COVID season, he kind of turned it around defensively. And
he's a 2-1 in left, a 3-1 in center and right, and he's an E6. You can get away. It'll suck if you roll the the split with the E6 in center field and stuff, but 2-1 in left, 3-1 in center and right. I'll take it.
All right. So that wraps up the draft. Like we said, 210 plays taken over 24 rounds. We had our supplementary draft that added 223 players total. Our supplementary draft, basically what it means is if you got a player that gets injured and you have run through your depth chart of players available to play that position, you got nobody else. It's kind of like the NBA B League. You can borrow from that supplementary team until your player returns and then he gets sent back down. Or last year we had a trade that went through where a team traded their third catcher to another franchise and not a catcher was returned. So because of our rules, you need 3 catchers at all times, 2 up in the majors at all times. And Manny Pena was sent up from supplemental to Seattle just to cover that. Never actually played, but, at least, it gives him depth. God forbid there was a problem. Players taken for that was Drew Smiley, left-handed pitcher, Taijuan Walker from the right side, Caleb Thibar, left-handed reliever, Diego Castillo, the right-handed reliever, Harold Castro at first, Gene Segura at second, Alan Trejo at short, Hunter Dozier at third, Corey Dickerson in left, Randall Gritchuk in center, Austin Hayes in right, Tucker Barnhart behind the plate, and JD Martinez. Yeah, JD Martinez was not drafted at DH. When you get 200 plus players into a draft, it becomes really, really hard to pick that supplemental team, especially not knowing what the cards look like. We do draft without knowledge of the cards and what they look like and defensive ratings other than what Twitter releases on their 2-day Twitter release. So it makes you a better manager, makes you understand how the cards are laid out better. And you're able to kind of predict things. I mean, for the most part, there was probably only 3 or 4 cards were head scratching that we were like, what the hell? Everybody else was pretty much on par of what we thought. Pro rating is pro rating. There's nothing really you can do. It's math, Yeah. You're either into it or you hate it. So, so it's math. Probably going to have to start telling people to prorate on their draft charts, after the 6th round so they know ahead of time how many at-bats these guys will have.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, going forward now, we're done with the draft. We're going to go into the divisions now. We did our draft recap. We did our pro rate. Well, let's get into our divisions. We'll start with I'm gonna write these down too. Jackie Robinson.
Yep.
How do you see the Jackie Robinson unfolding, starting with last place?
With last place in the division in the Jackie Robinson National
which means it's the team that will not make the playoffs. And this is no insult to anybody. This is experience of knowing how Strata works, the roll of the card. We get it, but there's a reason why people do replays of leagues, and they have their replays, and the replays wound up coming out very, very close to the actual real thing. So Plus, maybe this will be a little burst in the ass to prove everybody wrong. I've been right 3 straight years, so
I'm gonna go the Broad Street Bats in 5th place. I think he improved relief pitching, starting pitching a little bit, but he's gonna have a lot of question marks. He has 4 right fielders. Chris Bryant is his best bat in the outfield, who is going to be very heavily prorated. One of those guys get injured out there, he's going to be in trouble. Austin, he has a center fielder. I can't remember his name. He's going to be prorated as well. He's going to have some problems in the outfield. He's going to have to manage very, very well. I'm going to go Broad Street in 5th place.
Okay, how about over in the Mickey Mantle?
Oh, 5th place in my division.
Could be you.
It could be me. I don't think you'll hear this in my divisional predictions. I don't think I'm going to win my own division. I'm going to go, if I had to pick one team, I'm going to go Chandler. I think having his first 2 picks be attuned. Harris only plays against righties. Payne is probably is much better against lefties and doesn't hit righties well. I think he might have a little trouble there. He's got a couple guys in his rotation that might struggle with Kirby and Robbie Ray. And I'm not even sure what his bullpen looks like off the top of my head. It's going to be close, but I'm going to go Chandler in 5th.
Okay. 4th place, Jackie Robinson.
4th place, Jackie Robinson. This is close. I am going to go Cobra Kai in 4th for one reason, and he's got 4 lefties in his rotation. It was a toss-up between him and New Jersey for 3rd place, for 3rd and 4th place. I'm going to go Cobra Kai for the sole fact that he has 4 lefties in his rotation, and the way certain people's left-handed lineups are looking, I think it's even better than it normally is. So it's going to be very hard for him to get through certain left-handed lineups with the rotation that he has. So I'm going to go Cobra Kai in 4th.
Okay. Over in the Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle. I'm going to go Leonardo in 4th. He has the best rotation, but Beantown had the best rotation last year and finished 4th as well. As much as you want to have good pitching, you still have to hit. And I think in certain areas, Leonardo may struggle to score a little bit. I think his starting pitching will absolutely carry him. If he can get through 6 in his rotation, some of those guys might even get stretched to 7. I think he's going to be okay. But I'm going to go Leonardo in 4th.
Okay. We moved to 3rd place in the Jackie Robinson.
I just said this. I was bouncing between Cobra Kai and New Jersey for who I think was going to be 3rd and 4th place. I'm going to go New Jersey in 3rd. I think he has a really, really solid core. He drafted really well. He got those 3 great outfielders in the first 3 rounds. His top 3 of his rotation is great with Alcantara, Gonsolin, and Nola. Edward Cabrera is his 4th starter, and his card actually is really, really solid. He only has to avoid 2 small rolls on both sides. Blake Snell's his 5th, and who had a really good year. So I'm gonna go New Jersey in the 3 spot.
Okay. 3 spot in the Mickey Mantle.
I'm gonna go myself. I don't think this is my best team. I think I had a very good draft for what I needed. But with how many positions I have to platoon, I'm platooning in all 3 outfielder spots, depending on lefty righties. I'm probably going to run into certain spots that I'm going to struggle with throughout the season. Taking out one of my platoons, bringing in the other guy for a spot, and then late in the game, I run into a spot where I don't have a guy and I have to hit a guy who's not good on one side. I'll run into a little spot here and there. My rotation is okay. I'm happy with my rotation. My bullpen, it's not the bullpen that I had last year. But I do think that managing well is going to help me in certain situations. But I'm going to go myself in 3rd place.
Okay. Let's move over to second place, the Jackie Robinson.
Kevin, I'm gonna go you. I said this from the time the draft happened, from the time I started looking at cards. Your division's tough. I think last year my division was the best division. This year, I think it's your division. Your team it's always stacked. You have a great rotation with DeGrom and Rodon and Kelly, McKenzie, and Kopech. I know you would mention that there's certain spots with I think the pro rating is going to hurt you and myself as two of the top teams that's going to affect the most. We're both going to have to manage very, very well to counteract those pro rates. I think your bats are going to be good as always, especially your lefty bats. And there's 13 lefty starters in this in the league this year. So I'm going to go you in second place this year.
Okay. Mickey Mantle, second place.
This is really, really, really close. It's so close. I'm gonna go Phoenix in second. I think her bats are extremely good. Arguably, she could have the best 1 through 9 lineup in the league. Just talking about bats, her rotation is better than it was last year. She had one lefty last year and has one lefty this year, and I actually think School's card is better than Bumgarner's card was last year. And Bumgarner was her ace. Her bullpen is okay. I think she'll be able to manage as long as she can get good innings out of her rotation. But I'm going to go Phoenix in second place.
Okay, which naturally means your picks for division winners in the Jackie Robinson would be the Scooterville Saints.
I think Jess has the best overall team in the league. Pitching, hitting. The one spot that she might struggle a little bit in certain spots is defense. But you can make that up late in games. I think her 1 through 9 is phenomenal in her lineup. Her DHs are great. She's got catchers that can stop runs with a -3 in Yadier, a -2 in Trevino. She has 4 catchers, so it gives her flexibility. Her rotation 1 through 5 is just amazing in my mind. She's got Nestor, Cortez, Manoah, Peralta, Montgomery, Javier, with Strider looming in the bullpen, who could throw 6+ innings in a series in 2 separate games. Bullpen's phenomenal. I said this before. Jordan Romano closing games. Penn Murphy. She's got phenomenal bullpen arms. Strider's in there. I think she's the best team in the league.
Okay. Over to Mickey Mantle, division winner, Lockport Herminators.
Yeah. It was tough. I think his rotation is what sets him a little bit above Phoenix. I think Phoenix and him may compete for like the most runs scored in the league. I just said Jess is the best overall team. I actually think Phoenix and Lockport may battle for the best offense in the league. Lockport's rotation is solid, man. He's got Wheeler, Gallen, Cease, Anderson, Cole. He's got Clay Holmes, who might struggle a little bit as this closer, but he's got Evan Phillips, who is a lockdown setup man. He's got a good lefty who can go 2 innings. He's got great defense. He's got Aaron Judge in right. He's got good E ratings elsewhere. I think it's going to be a close 1-2 finish between him and Phoenix, but I think Lockport might pull it out.
All right. So Scooterville, best regular season record?
Yeah, I'm going to go Scooterville, best regular season record, yes.
Worst regular season record?
Broad Street.
Okay. Those are Nick's picks. I'll repeat them. Jackie Robinson, Scooterville, best record in the league, followed by Jersey Shore, New Jersey Killers, First United Cobra Kai, Broad Street, with the worst record in the league. Mickey Mantle, Lockport Herminators, division winners, Phoenix Dragons, second, Middletown Beater Bandits, third, Leonardo Lightning, fourth, and Chandler Diamondbacks, fifth. Kevin's picks. the Mickey Mantle, Phoenix Dragons, division winners. Lockport Herminators in second. Middletown in third. Chandler Diamondbacks in fourth. Leonardo Lightning missing the playoffs because I just can't see the veteran manager, Richie Jones, allowing his team to miss the playoffs for the second straight year.
I like those picks. We flip-flopped on 2 spots there. Both are very close. Fourth and fifth are going to be close, and first and second are going to be close. So I don't disagree with those picks at all.
Okay. Over in the Jackie Robinson, I'm a homer. I've been doing this way too long. I'm the division winner with the best record in the league, which I'm going to have to battle, I think, Phoenix and Jessica for that. But yes. I will win that division because when it comes down to it, you got to beat the teams in your own division.
Yeah.
And I feel that my division, me playing my division, will be a lot easier than me playing your division.
Yeah.
So I have me at 1. I have Scooterville at number 2. I have First United Cobra Kai at 3. I have the Jersey Killers at 4 and Broad Street with the worst record in the league, in my opinion, as well, at 5.
Yeah. I think whoever wins your division between you and Jess will have the best record in the league. I think, to be honest, I think the top 2 teams in each division, between you, Scooterville, Lockport, and Phoenix, I think you 4 are going to be, you're not going to be too far off from each other. I don't see first and second place, all 4 of those teams. I think you're going to be within maybe 6, 7 games of each other, maybe at most.
I'm thinking my division is going to come down to 5 games or less,
yes.
Either side. I think if Phoenix plays with confidence,
yes.
And I'm talking about she got off to the great start last year, hit a rut, and then could not get over that bump and dropped from first to third, couldn't get out of her own way.
Yeah.
If she can play with confidence and plays to the capability of that team and its cards,
yes.
I can see her winning that division by 6 or more games.
Yeah, it's possible. It absolutely is.
Okay. My breakdown of each team, pluses and minuses. Scooterville. They're a plus category in the pitching ranks. We know that.
Yep.
They are among the top tier offensively.
Yes.
They are a little bit above average defensively.
Yeah.
Scooterville's problem is going to be consistently getting on base.
Yeah.
Not just a one big inning.
Yeah.
Got to consistent 3 or 4 innings, scoring a couple of runs, getting a couple of guys on. The guys need to walk. Can't rely on the single and the 2-run homer.
Yeah.
Okay. She did that a lot last year, hence why George Springer had 20-something home runs.
Yeah.
And only 50 RBIs.
Yeah.
My pluses, my starting rotation, back end of the bullpen.
Yes.
My scary parts of my team is probably going to be the bullpen from the 6th and 7th inning if I don't push my guys into the 6th or the 7th. That bridge.
Yeah.
I say Godspeed if you throw a left-handed pitcher against me. Yeah. Big pluses. I have a tremendous amount of team speed.
A lot.
Okay, not just guys that are A's and which I have plenty of guys that are A's, plenty of guys that are B's, but I got tons of guys that are 1 to 16, 1 to 17 running, and I have a couple of guys that are bunting A's.
Yep.
So I will put that. Defensively, probably top 3. I mean, last year I was number 2.
Yeah.
But the back end of my rotation needs to do its job. It can't shit the bed like last year. My 3 and 4 starters were hurting me. Rodon was the only savior, he was 5th. But not everybody's going to put their number 1 pick 5th.
I think last year your biggest struggle was that the 3-4 spot in your rotation and hitting in big spots late in the season. Because you fell off after the All-Star break, and you had enough of a cushion in the division that you didn't have to worry. But that came back to bite you in the playoffs as a whole.
Well, I won my divisional games. That's why I won the division.
Exactly.
Yeah, my team was very inconsistent outside of Nicky Lopez and Nick Castellanos.
Yeah.
Everybody else was kind of like up in the air. Sal Perez didn't do shit the entire year except strike out.
Yeah.
New Jersey Killers has to play within his means. He's going to give up runs, but he's going to score runs. He's got decent defense, but he's got to play within his means. He can't start taking crazy risks to try to push the envelope because his team offensively is not going to be able to make up for mistakes.
Yeah.
His bullpen is going to be an issue. He's going to have to piece it together. And with the 3-batter minimum, it's going to make it tougher. And he hasn't done that yet. This is going to be his first year in the league dealing with the 3-batter minimum rule.
Yeah. I think he's going to rely heavily on his 1 through 3 starters. I think if Alcantara, Gonsolin, and Nola can really carry the weight of that rotation and perform what they need, what they can perform with what those cards look like, I think he's going to be able to balance out any struggles that he might have with his 4 or 5 starters and sometimes in his bullpen. You're going to see him stretch those starters pretty heavily during the season.
Cobra Kai. And the reason why I had Cobra Kai so high in the division, third, is because Sean always seems to play well above his team's capability. And that's to his credit.
He's a good manager.
He led the planet Earth on home runs last year. Nobody would have thought that. Nobody would have thought that. Looking at his team, you're like, all right, you're going to hit a few. No. He had a fucking cruise boat full.
Yeah.
Okay. And, he played well above potential.
Yeah.
But he's going to struggle offensively. He needs to take risks like stealing bases and playing some small ball to make things happen. He's going to have to rely heavily on his starting rotation to get him into the 7th and 8th innings because outside of the back end of his bullpen, his setup is a little shaky. And his guys don't get on base a lot. They don't walk a lot. So it's going to be rough, but he's overcome every year.
And he has 4 lefties, which could bite him in the ass, but his 4 lefties are really, really good. Like, the cards are really solid. Like, he's got, I think he has, does he have McClanahan? Yeah, he has McClanahan. His 4 or 5 are McClanahan and Perez, and both of those cards are really, really solid. He has freed it.
They're really, really solid, but the problem is he's going to be facing teams that are going to have probably 4 or 5 guys in their lineup with 15-plus ways to get on base.
Yes, absolutely.
So if they roll their card, there's a good 77% chance they roll their own card to getting on base.
Yeah.
So that's the downfall, where if you're facing a righty, everybody else pretty much has anywhere between 9 and 12. But then when you push it to the left side, it all of a sudden jacks up to 15 plus.
15, exactly, yeah.
So, yeah. Broad Street's going to have the same problems, though. Broad Street always has. They're going to strike out way too much.
And hit solo home runs.
They're going to rely on the solo home run. They don't walk. They strike out entirely too much. They don't get on base enough. Their pitching is not good enough to hold down the average offense. They're going to give up 4 to 5 runs a game, if not more, and they're going to have a hard time struggling to score 4 runs a game. It's going to be I hate to say it's going to be a long season for Broad Street, and I feel they are going to have the worst record in the league, but sometimes having a worst record in the league isn't a bad thing because it's not a bad record, but they are going to endure their franchise worst record ever.
Yeah. I think with Broad Street, Broad Street's bullpen might actually be slightly underrated. Like, looking at his bullpen cards, he does have some strong pieces, even outside of Helsley. If his starters can keep it together, he's going to be able to, in some games, he's going to be able to let that bullpen take control and hopefully power him through games to get those, to get the holds and the saves. I like you said, I do think he is going to struggle. I projected him to have the worst record in the league. Like you said, worst record doesn't mean a bad season; it just means the worst record in the league. I do think it will be a rough season for Broad Street compared to just seeing what everybody else has on their team offensively. I think it might be a rough season.
I'm predicting a 22-44 season.
Robbie in Lockport. I told Robbie this. I go, I'd be shocked at 25. I'm predicting 20. I'm predicting 20 wins.
Okay. His starting pitcher is going to have to pitch so much better than the card reads, and that's so much to ask for.
We've seen it before, but we've seen it before with single guys in rotations. We haven't seen it with all five.
Right. We've seen it with Dylan Cease last year. We've seen it with Ranger Suarez. But we also seen guys like Garrett Cole have good cards and just get absolutely decimated.
That's why I think Garrett Cole might actually have a surprising good season because he's got some rough rolls on his card this year as Robbie's number 5. So
I'll find him.
You will.
I love Garrett Cole.
I know you do.
It's my favorite doormat. Over in the Mickey Mantle, Phoenix, I picked number 1. I feel Phoenix has one of the most well-balanced rosters from top to bottom. They have very little weaknesses, and where they do have weaknesses as starters, she has the Band-Aid on the bench all ready to go for late games.
Yes.
She has plenty of talent in the minor leagues to come up if there is injury. I mean, her starting rotation is well above solid. Her setup bullpen is good, and her back end bullpen is going to be very, very good as well. I think Clase is gonna probably be the reliever of the year next year.
Yeah, I think she's the deepest team offensively. Where if somebody gets hurt, she has 1A in the lineup, and she's got 1B on the bench waiting. And if 1B is not working, she's got 1C in the minors.
I mean, she's got a problem that's an absolutely great problem.
Yes,
she doesn't even know where she's going to put the American League batting champion.
Yeah, Luis Arias. She is. I didn't mention him before when I was going over her offense. That's how stacked her team is. I forgot the American League batting champ on her team.
Yeah.
She has a very, very good problem. She's very deep offensively. She's going to score a lot of runs. Like I said, Jess may be the most well-rounded team from top to bottom, and I think I project her to have the best record in the league. But I think Robbie and Annie are going to really battle it out for the most runs scored.
It's Annie's team's going to look scary if you're down 2 to 3 runs, and she's going Iglesias, Devin Williams, and Clase.
Yeah, that 1, 2, 3 is nasty.
Yeah, so it's going to be and it's funny because she's got other relievers that she drafted that are a lot better than Iglesias, but Iglesias just, he's dominant against righties, and predominantly everybody's going to have righties. So, it's not really going to force her to flip flop to the other side, but she drafted enough arms to, give her a nice deep bullpen. Like she can ride 6 guys if she really wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look for a quick name that she drafted. Wandy Peralta.
Oh, there's their big lefty. She also drafted Dylan Lee.
Yeah. Wandy Peralta. I mean, he could start.
Yeah. She drafted Eli Morgan as well.
Yeah. I mean, she's got yeah. And don't forget, in the minor leagues, she's got Domingo Germán.
And John Gray.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's got some arms. I mean, it's really she really did okay for herself in the draft, despite some shaky moments personally for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got Phoenix there. Lockport at number 2, and the reason why I got Lockport at number 2, I just don't feel like he has the pitching to match up to Phoenix. Push comes to shove, if he has to beat Phoenix 1-on-1 to win the division, he in his mind thinks he owns her, but we see how fast that can change.
Yeah.
if he can beat her for the season series, then he's going to win that division.
I agree. They play each other.
If he goes 4, whatever, I think they play each other, what, 9 times?
I'm going to check right now. I believe it is 9.
Yeah, and if she goes 7-2, she's walking away with that division. He's gonna have to go minimum 3-4 to stay close to her. If he goes 4-3, it's gonna be very close. But if he goes 5-2, 6-1, 7-0, 9 or whatever it is, 7-2, 8-1, 9-0, he'll win that division. He has to beat her to win that division.
They play each other 9 times.
Yeah.
Yes, I've played a lot of spring training games against his team. The bridge, besides Evan Phillips and Clay Holmes might struggle at times. The bridge, besides those two in the bullpen, might. He does have a lefty who's very solid.
Yeah.
That might be a one concern that I would see. His offense is going to score runs. He's going to get on base. He's going to steal. I think you and him are easily going to have the 2 most stolen bases in the league. You're both going to steal a lot of bases. He's going to move guys over to second base through those stolen bases, and then he's going to get those single 2 stars, those doubles. He's got a lot of pop on that team. He might be a team like Sean last year that just leads the universe in home runs. He has a lot of pop. I really do think him and Phoenix, like you said, it will come down to their head-to-head matchups. And I think that those two, it's going to be 3 games separates the 2 of them.
But it could also be this too. If you think about it, they could go 4-3, 3-4 against each other, but it also might come down to how many games they take from you.
I finished the season against Lockport.
Hey, you never know. We've had many seasons come down to the last weekend of the last 6 and sometimes last game of the season. One season we had to come down to the final game between Broad Street and Scooterville.
Scooterville, yeah. I think late in the season, the late season stretch that last month. I mean, the last month, for instance, Phoenix faces Chandler. Sorry, that's the 9th month. The last month, Phoenix faces Leonardo, and then Phoenix faces Broad Street. Could be 2 good matchups for her. Whereas Lockport faces Cobra Kai, who he in years past has struggled with, and myself. So he could, scheduling wise, if Annie goes in tight going into that final month, she has the advantage in the schedule.
Right. It's all about confidence. She's got to play with confidence. She doesn't play with confidence, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You being in third, I think you have too many holes.
Yes.
You filled a lot of holes.
Yeah.
But there just wasn't enough roster spots to fill the rest.
Yeah. And I'm platooning at too many spots. That's going to be my biggest downfall, is the way I'm platooning at too many spots. I'm going to be able to manage my pro rates and this and that. I don't have as much depth with really solid offensive cards that I did before. Like last year, I had CJ Crone and Connor Joe, who started against lefties, who could just stay in if they moved to a righty, because they were just locked down against righties as well. But I just couldn't play them against righties because my team was stacked. So I feel like me platooning so many different ways is going to be the biggest downfall to my team. My rotation is fine. It's nothing to write home about, but it's nothing that should really hurt me too much. Yeah, I have 2 lefties. But I think it's very reasonable for me to finish third. Wouldn't be shocked if I finished 4th either. You could see Chandler, or you could see any of those 2 teams below me.
I don't see that, because I see you finishing over 500, and I think that the 3 teams in your division will finish over 500. Chandler is going to struggle, but I think they're going to finish, I'm going to say 3 to 4 games under 500 if they get to 500, which would be great. He's been playing this a long time, and he's not going to allow. I don't think he's going to allow himself to miss the playoffs for a second straight year, especially after missing the playoffs by 1 win last year.
Yeah.
I think Leonardo's got the new manager. He's got a lot to learn. He's going to be learning on the fly. There's going to be a lot of things that, he's going to go into this season and then look back and say, oh, shit, I should have tried that. It might have been different. I should have did this, did that, which he carries into his second season, and he'll have that under his belt, and he'll know, and it'll be a totally different team.
Yeah.
But I think just from just experience-wise, I think Chandler is going to flirt with 500. They're going to win that division. I think Leonardo is going to finish anywhere from 6 to 8 games under. My division, I'm very confident in my ability to win that division. I'm going to pick the complete opposite of Broad Street, where he's going to go 22 and 42. I feel I'm going to go 42 and 22.
22 and 44.
44, sorry. 22 and 44. That's right. We play 66 games.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with 44 and 22 for me, with Scooterville in the 40s. I'm going to say 40 victories, 41 victories.
I like that. I like that for her. I think both of you. I think both of you could very reasonably be over 40 wins.
Cobra Kai at third, I feel is going to hover around the 500 mark. I think they're going to be a lot like Chandler. They're gonna lose their heartbreakers. They're going to win when they score a lot.
Yeah.
The close games they're probably not going to win, but he's going to win his fair share. So he'll be in the 30s. New Jersey, I feel, is going to finish anywhere from 4 to 6 games behind Cobra Kai.
Okay.
So, that'll be around anywhere from 6 to 10 games under 500. And then Broad Street, we have at 22 and 44, nowhere near 500. So, that's kind of where I see it. Phoenix, I feel, is going to be anywhere from 38 to 43 victories.
Okay.
And Lockport, I feel, is going to finish within 3 games of Phoenix.
Okay. Very reasonable.
So if she finishes with 43, he's going to finish with 40 to 41. I do think I'm going to beat her out by a single victory for the best record in the league.
Okay, 44 to 43. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But who knows? I might finish the first month 1-5 and be like, oh man, that sucked.
Yeah, who the hell knows, man? Because listen, I started off cold last year. I started off rough. I was in third place for a while, and then my team woke up in the second half of the season. It was all me. Anything could happen, man. Anything could happen in Strat, and that's what I love about this game. We could sit here and project where the standings are going to be, who's going to finish with the best, the worst record, what the records are going to be, and it could be completely opposite. John could roll as hot as fucking an Arizona summer and finish with like 37 wins and win the division. You never know, dude. You really never know in this game.
You don't. I mean, it was crazy last year. He beat me in the season series 5-4.
Yep.
But meant nothing.
And he pushed it to 6 in the playoffs in the NLCS.
He did. That was the first time he made it out of the first round.
And there was only one game where you scored a lot, and that was the game that you won 9-5 in game 2.
And don't forget about the no-hitter in game 3.
No. First playoff no in league history.
That's right. First playoff no-hitter in my history. I never had a no-hitter.
And your division's got the other 2 as well. So,
but yeah, our division's got three no-hitters along with the single perfect game.
How the hell do you throw a perfect game in Strat? I still don't understand how it's even humanly possible to throw, not even a walk. How do you throw a perfect game in Strat?
Not even a pass ball.
Nothing. Perfect game. Straight through. How?
Well, you got to also remember back in the day when we were using the basic chart, it was a lot harder because if you roll that pass ball followed by the foul out, that guy can score or the guy, guy can move up. There's a little less of that now. Wild pitches don't really count towards that, but nobody's on base. That was just insanity. And I was glad that we caught the authentic reaction to that.
The picture that we have on the website, that is just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I wish there was somebody watching me in that playoff game when I threw the no-hitter that could have recorded it, but you know, I'm guessing there was nobody else there watching. Yeah.
Well, Robbie and I are in the middle of our series. We were still playing, weren't we?
You just finished when I went into the 8th inning and I hit the pinch hit home run to make it 1-0.
Yes, and then we watched the 9th inning, because we had just finished our series. But listen, I'm excited for the 2023 season, man. I'm glad that that we only have a couple more days playing 6 games. Let's go over the schedule real quick so everybody knows.
Wait, before you get that, we had an email come into the commissioner's office for a roster moves.
Oh, wonderful. Live on air roster move.
Yeah. I mean, after 6 o'clock, of course, because, you know, God forbid this particular person understands how a clock works. But the Broad Street Bats, which he also spelt his team name wrong, sending down Emmanuel Rivera, Jose Miranda, and Oscar Gonzalez, recalling Adam Duvall, Austin Barnes, and Donovan Solano.
I love the Duvall call-up because he has one center fielder who's prorated. And I love Duvall in center, even though he's a 3. His card is not the worst thing in the world, so he really needs him to at least be on the bench and be ready to go in any situations. I really like that, and I'm glad he made that move.
The other moves were were a little head scratching because, all right, we understand he sent down one of his 15 right fielders, but he brought up he sent down Emmanuel Rivera, who was prorated, correct?
Yeah.
Sent down Gonzalez, who was not prorated, and then he also sent down Miranda, who was not prorated. And he brought up Austin Barnes, who only has 86 plate appearances to his name, and Donovan Solano, who only has 124 plate appearances to his name.
Well, Barnes is his 3rd catcher. Oh, well, Barnes should be his 2nd catcher because Varsho plays center field as well.
Right.
And Varsho's a +1 behind the plate. So that Barnes move is very important for him. I think Barnes is a 0 or a -1. But that Barnes move is very important.
Well, he's going to have to pay attention to his player personnel. That's
Absolutely.
for sure.
But this is the schedule for month 1. The first series of the month. It's going to be Middletown at New Jersey, Lockport at Scooterville, Phoenix at Broad Street, Chandler at Cobra Kai, and Leonardo at Jersey Shore. The second series of the month will be Scooterville at Middletown. A beautiful ring ceremony will commence before game 1. Broad Street at New Jersey, Cobra Kai at Lockport, which is definitely a rivalry matchup because those two always play each other well. Jersey Shore at Phoenix, and Leonardo at Chandler, which could be that we talked about that 4 or 5 mark in my division. That could be a very competitive series.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get a little eye openers right out of the gate with, you know, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 1 starters going in the first 6 games. You know, Phoenix is gonna, you know, everybody's gonna have their number 1 starter go twice, which is the norm. So you know, I'll get the number 1 starter for Leonardo, which is said again?
Verlander.
He'll get DeGrom
versus DeGrom. Great matchup. Holy shit.
and then you got DeGrom versus Musgrove.
Yes, in the second series you got DeGrom versus Musgrove. Yep.
So it's gonna be interesting. You know, I feel like my big what I feel is what's gonna push my team this year is that, you know, I'm gonna get DeGrom. DeGrom's gonna do DeGrom things. He might give up a little more runs this year than last year, but I mean, he gave up literally nothing last year. So him giving up something would be like head scratching.
Yeah.
Rodon, I think, is going to have a better year than he had last year. He did have great power numbers, low whip, low everything, except his ERA was about 4.5. When he did give up runs, he gave up
Home run.
like 4 solo home runs each game. It was nuts. But he was also a 5th starter. This year, he's a number 2 starter. I'm actually going to get something I feel this year out of Tristan McKenzie, unlike last year. I'm going to get, what I need out of Merrill Kelly. And I feel as much as the confidence level is mediocre, lukewarm at best with Michael Kopech. I feel that Michael Kopech could fly under the radar, kind of like Dylan Cease last year, and actually have a decent year.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think for my team, I think what's going to carry me is probably being able to drive in runs when I've got runners on base. I know it seems very simple, but like when I was playing during spring training, I was getting a lot of guys on base because I got a lot of walks. I got a lot of hit by pitches on my cards. And I'm getting a lot of guys on base, but I just wasn't driving them in. I just wasn't getting those big time hits.
Right.
I'm not going to have or like I did last year. I'm not going to hit 4 straight home runs and hit 6 home runs in a game and this and that. It's not going to be like that this year. It's going to have to come down to big time hits. If I get those big time hits, I could play above what my team is. But I think that's what it's going to come down to for me. I'm going to get guys on base. I'm going to have those 6 walks in a row and shit like that because that's just what else would Nick do? What else would I do with a team? But I think it's going to come down to those. Can I get those big innings? Can I string together those? Yeah, I'm going to have a couple walks here and there, but can I string together those 2, 3, 4, 5 hits in a row? I think that's what it's going to come down to for me.
I do feel that there's going to be a league high home runs as a whole, given up by pitchers and hit by franchises. I think everybody is going to experience that tough middle of the card roughness that a lot of the starting pitchers have.
Dude, when I was separating my cards and I was looking at the starters and I was separating our teams, I could not believe how many starters. They might only have 4 things on each side, but they're dead center in the 7 to 9 mark on every single one. So,
yep, and it's going to be rough. Even looking at rosters and things like that, it's going to be hard to say, who do you think is going to win the MVP? Who's going to win pitcher? Pitcher, I think pitching is going to be a lot easier because there's no pro rating, so there's no platooning. Yeah. I still say Clase is most likely going to be the reliever of the year.
And I'm not going to lie, I think Zach Gallen might be starter of the year.
I mean, it's possible. As far as like offensively, it's going to be hard because there's going to be a lot of teams using players that at the end of the season won't even qualify for batting. So.
Exactly. Like I have a couple guys who I absolutely think could contend for a batting title and this and that, but they're not going to qualify.
Right. If I was able to use Joey Meneses for a whole season, God knows what that guy would do.
And God knows what Matt Carpenter would do for Annie. Yeah.
Exactly. So because, we're forced to platoon and do things like that, your guys that are going to be playing every day, aren't going to be the guys that are going to be tearing it up. You're not going to see Ahmed Rosario hitting 27 home runs, but you might see Joey Meneses in 98 at bats hit 18.
Yeah.
So, just look at First United Cobra Kai from last year. He had like 7 guys in double digits, and out of those 7, I think only 2 of them were starters.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say this one time. I haven't said it yet, but the way I look at it, it's Death, Taxes, and George Springer being one of the top hitters in home runs. And I think he might do it. I think he might do it again for Jess. He's always one of the top. He was on your team 2 years ago. I don't
even know if he's going to play.
I was looking at her team when I separated, played a couple spring training games against her. I had him starting on one side of the ball, I believe. But who knows? He's got a good card both sides. He could start either way.
I know, but she might be, if she's got to choose between threes, in the field, she might lean towards like a Randy Arozarena,
Yeah.
Gives a little speed, some pop, and he's got an arm, so it's she's got a lot of depth, but she's gonna have to, like I said, I think the only thing that she's gonna be a little shaky on is defense and late game defense. So she's gonna make sure she has to, she puts the right people in the right spots at the right time. Last year she got caught a couple of times leaving Bo Bichette in late in games, and it wound up costing her a couple bases, sometimes a couple of runs. But she's not gonna have to worry about that because Francisco Lindor is gonna be playing shortstop, and he has a phenomenal.
And he's a 1 this year, and he's like a 1 E8 or something like that. He's really solid.
She's not going to have to really worry about things like that. I mean, she has a solid team all around. Jose Altuve, stud at second base, so she's set there. She's got who was the third baseman? Chapman.
She got Chapman, who's a 1E4 or something.
Yeah, his rating is like E5, 1E5. That's insane for a third baseman.
Yeah,
insane. The hot corner E5. Like, are you kidding?
Outfield defense is where she'll struggle.
It is, but she does have a little depth for late inning defense that she can bring in that she doesn't have to rely on for offense. So she'll be okay there. She's set in the catching core, with Yachty and Trevino and Kirk and Carson Kelly. Yeah. So she's good there. I mean, and not for nothing, if she really, really wants to, she could flip Carson Kelly to somebody else like Broad Street, who needs a go-to catcher, and bring in a defensive outfield that she might need.
Yeah, because I mean, Carson Kelly's a 2-1. I think he was a 2-1 last year for me, or a 2-2 last year, or something like that. 2-1 is fine, especially for a team that needs it. Offensively, he's not phenomenal, but
he's not bad. His card's not bad. If that trade was proposed to Broad Street, for him to bat 8th or 9th on Broad Street just to shore up that defense, I mean, I'm just throwing his name out there. I don't know if he has anything defensively in the outfield to offer her, but you never know. But I'm going to ask you this one question to end our telecast here. How many games? I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
Okay.
How many times? This is question 1. How many times will Shohei Ohtani get hurt this year as a batter?
Oh, fuck, man. I'm gonna say twice.
Will he miss any time as a pitcher due to that injury?
Yeah, I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna say 1. I'm gonna say he's gonna miss 1 start. He'll roll in the middle. He'll miss a little time at bat, and he'll come back just before his start, and then he'll miss 1 start. Like the second time he gets injured, he rolls like at a 10 or 11 and has to miss like 1 start or something.
All right, second and final question. How many games in the outfield will Bryce Harper play?
I mean,
for people watching at home, Bryce Harper is a right field 4. Plus 5. E1.
Yeah, E1. I mean, sorry. I know we're on YouTube. I didn't mean that to curse there. I mean, he played.
I cursed like 3 times.
He had JD Davis at third base last year sometimes, and he's a 5.
He was like a 5E12. So if you rolled this, you got lucky and rolled the split, you might have got an out.
He has a lot of right fielders, but now he's got 3 up in the. He's got Suzuki and Acuna up with Harper.
Because he might have to play. And Acuna doesn't play center field at all, right?
He's only right field.
And Harper's only right field.
Yeah.
And Suzuki's only right field.
Only right field. And Harper has the best E rating out of all 3.
Yeah, doesn't Suzuki have a E8 or something?
No, Suzuki's like
Acuna.
They're both in the high single digits, and Gonzalez, who we just sent down, was an E13.
Yeah, that's bad.
I'm gonna say 8 games for Harper and Ray.
8 games. He's going to
I'm
play
gonna say
8 games.
I'm gonna say 8 games.
All right. I lied. Third and final question.
Okay.
Will the Broad Street Bats lead the league again in injuries and games lost due to injury? Not games as in wins and losses, but games lost as a player playing the game.
I think he's got the most serious because a lot of his guys didn't play a lot of time, and he's got a lot of. I mean, he's got 5 prorated guys. Dude, he just has such bad luck when it comes to injury roles, regardless of where the roles are. Yeah, it's hard to say no to that question when the past has shown that regardless of where the injuries are, he rolls it. So I gotta go with the past here. I gotta say yeah.
All right. Any closing remarks as we wrap up the state of the JNJSOM address?
I'm just looking forward to it, man. I think it's gonna be a great season. I think we're gonna see a lot of competition. I don't think we're gonna see anybody run away with anything. I mean, last year we had teams get forfeits, take on free wins and still not win divisions and stuff like that. Whereas without them, it would have been possibly a runaway. I think there's going to be a lot of different races. I think, like I said, Lockport and Phoenix are going to fight for a division. You and Scooterville are going to fight for a division. I think the 3-4 in your division is going to be up for grabs. The 4-5 in my division is going to be up for grabs. I think I'm just going to hover right in the middle and sort of try and bob and weave and stay out of trouble and not get into too many hard-hitting battles with people.
Pray that life vest doesn't fail.
What do you say?
Pray that life vest doesn't fail.
I think it's gonna be a great season, man. I think we're gonna see we might see some records this season, regardless of what the records are. I got this feeling we're gonna see some records one way or another, whether it's home runs, strikeouts, injuries, wins. I don't know. I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something good for this season.
You're feeling something. Not sure what it is, but he's feeling it.
Yeah.
Could be heartburn.
It could be. I'm going to take some Tums.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, look, I mean, I want to give me a second. Yeah. I want to thank. I'm trying to get this to stop. Hold on a second. Okay. I want to obviously thank yourself and Jessica LaRoche, our respected league presidents, Anne-Marie Turk, our CFO, treasurer of the league, and the 10 total GMs in the league for making another year of Stratomatic happen in Keyport, New Jersey. And all the dedication and the loyalty everybody has showed by staying and playing and making things happen, sacrificing schedules and things like that. I can't wait till the weather gets warm so we can fire up the grill after games.
Yes.
Possibly pool time and stuff like that. So it's it's going to be good times. Obviously, I will see you Friday when you come in. And we'll make sure that the ring ceremony is nice for you. The belt is also there for you to take home and hang up.
Yes. And
yeah. So I mean, there's really nothing else. I mean, other than we ask and as we close out all our shows back in the day, we ask, we plead, we beg that you help control the nitwit population and have your friends spayed or neutered. I am Commish Kev. That's American League President Nick. And folks, thank you very much for tuning in to the State of the JNJSOM address. You can visit us on Twitter at twitter.com, JNJSOM. Also, same address on Instagram. And our website is at leaguelineup.com/JNJSOM. You can follow us. You can apply for a expansion franchise for the following season. Everything is on the website. You can follow us on all those social media things. You can follow the league, see what happens, see the write-ups, the cool box scores, and everything else that we put up, and some photos for our league events and our league gatherings. Family and friends are getting together, play a game that's been around for over 60 years. Tradition that hopefully we get to hand down to, if we don't have our own kids, we can poison the minds of other people's children. So Katie is doomed.
Yes, she is.
All right, bro. Appreciate it. I'll see you in a couple of days.
I will see you in a couple of days.